Welcome to the after party. Welcome to the after party. Did you bring some snacks and treats? I hope you got me something to eat. Welcome to the after party. Coming to the after party. I've been waiting here all day to act like a fool this way. Welcome to the after party. Join us in the after party. Oh, shocking and gabbing, maybe some microphone grabbing at the after party. Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome to the after party. Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait. I'm by myself today? What's going on here? I cannot believe it, but Paigey took a road trip to learn how to clickbait. So unfortunately, he's going to be taking clickbaiting classes today. But this is the new setup for After Party 6.5. As you can see, all of the new stuff up at the top and everything. So yes, no Paigey today. And I guess I'm all alone. Unless I had the opportunity to ask someone if they wanted to join me to talk about such a big week. Because this is a supersized after party. That's right. We're going to be talking about 3 shows today, which means no extra lap on Twitch. We're going to be doing it all over here. All right. So the special guest that's joining me is someone that everyone knows. It's been a minute since he's been on the after party. So glad to have him here with me. And we have a big announcement for Tuesday as well. So you definitely want to stick around to the end of the stream. Let's welcome him onto the stream, everyone. Show him some love. Make him feel very welcome. We have Andy is in the house. Welcome, Andy. How are you?
I'm
good.
Yes.
Andy is here. I borrowed him from the Endless Multiverse that they have on Friday nights. And I said, you know what? You need to come over from your multiverse over to this Earth and we can talk about some shows. So glad to have Andy here with me today. Everybody's very familiar with him. Flash Podcast. And now, speaking of that, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about it. You got this multiverse of color thing going on. What is happening with that? Let's give everybody an opportunity to learn about the multiverse of color. It's a new endeavor for you. So what's happening with this?
So multiverse of color, it's been something I've been working on since I believe last August, September, something like that. Because some people may know that I used to run a Marvel website called the Marvel Report, but we were kind of like trying to figure out like where are we going in the next couple of years, because Marvel is kind of in an interesting place right now. But also I'm like I love covering things that aren't just Marvel and DC things.
Mhm.
So I started trying to cook up this idea, like what if I do like a rebrand of some kind. And I want to, and also something I also wanted to do was highlight the diversity angle that comes with the things that I do, because I run a podcast and network with with a lot of people color,
Mhm.
a lot of members LGBTQ and so on. But it was always hard to kind of like find a more organic way to implement it
Right.
into the name, because DC podcast, I mean, what are we gonna call it? DC of color, or I don't know, something like that. So I thought, you know what if I just start merging these things and do it as a general thing? And the multiverse of color, and because think of each show and each movie franchise as its own Earth.
Right.
From the get-go, just establishing that from the get-go. Todd Halpern, you could take a lesson or two from that. But so multiverse color, we just launched a couple of weeks ago. We're still getting a lot of things set up,
Mhm.
but it's gonna be covering a lot more things than just DC and Marvel. And it's gonna be highlight, a big focus is of course from voices of color and voices of the LGBTQ plus community, because I think that I also want to give back to the world of content creators, because I didn't have this when I
Mhm.
started. I've been writing since I was 17 years old.
Yeah.
So, and back then I didn't have a platform like this. So now I'm like trying to give out, be like, hey, in case something ever happens to me, I want to leave something behind for the next generation of creators.
Yeah. That's awesome. So Multiverse of Color is a site, but they can also follow it on Twitter, right? Multiverse of Color on Twitter, or how is it? It's not the full thing. They have a limited amount of characters, so it's like,
Yeah, I was really angry about that.
yeah.
I was really upset. I'm like, come on, I just want the off part. I just
Guess
want the
what?
off part.
That is why I am not Eric's Reloaded on Twitter, because the D gets cut off. The very last letter of my name from here doesn't fit on Twitter. So that's why I have to use my smaller, DJ Eric name, is because there's not enough characters. It's a little
Hmm.
weird. So that's why I have that as my separate, like the actual name on the account. But head over to Twitter. You guys follow Andy. You can follow Multiverse of Color. I believe Chainsaw's also connected with that. He's done some writing over there for that as part of the initiative of that situation. And so a lot of fun stuff. I'm looking forward to see what you guys are going to be doing long term with that. I'm very, very happy to hear about that and all the diversity, that we're going to be seeing
Yeah.
out of Multiverse of Color. So that's great. Congratulations on that.
Thank you
And
so much.
yeah, we're going to be seeing some big things. All right. I want to give a shout out to Josh Darby, who is a Team Eric member, who just dropped a super sticker and said, how's it going? Well, I'll answer me first. How's it going? I'm having a really good Saturday. The weather's nice. The windows are open. No complaints here. I had a salad for lunch. I'd been craving a salad all week. So I was like, had a salad for lunch. Very good. How's it going for you, Andy? How is your day going so far? I know, you have a lot of stuff on your plate. So have you had a busy
Yeah.
day? Have you not had a busy
I
day?
slept. I actually slept for like 12 hours. It was so good. I just woke up in the afternoon. I'm like, this is nice. This is nice. I'm like, is this
Yeah,
what normal people do with their lives? Like they actually sleep in on Saturdays and just not worry
yeah.
about the world or whatever. So, but yeah, and
Mm,
the weather, it's been very foggy today. So I'm kind of like, but I
mm,
like that because I mean that the snow is getting ready to kind of like just vanish because I'm sick of the snow.
mm.
But
That's good.
yeah,
That's awesome. Well, we've got three. Like I was looking today as I was writing my notes, and I'm like, we have so much to go over. And typically, what I've been doing with the after party is I'll do like an hour and a half here, and then go over to Twitch for like an hour and some change. Break it up because we only had one show to talk about, but that has changed now. For the next couple months, we're going to have multiple shows on every single week. And this week we had Superman and Lois return. We had the premiere of Gotham Knights, which I think a lot of people were very concerned about the quality of that show and what it was going to be like. And then we had The Flash doing its first interlude episode of the season before we take a small break from The Flash. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about these shows in the order they aired. That makes it super easy. So that means Superman and Lois first, Gotham Knights second, and The Flash last. So if you want to hang out for the Flash roasting session, you're going to have to hang out for the end. We also have some stuff we want to talk about at the end. Some really interesting stuff coming out of DCU. So it's a lot today. It is a supersized episode. So grab yourself a snack, grab yourself a drink, and sit down and have a chat with us. We can't wait to hear from you guys. Remember, you can super chat if you want to get your question 100% answered. Feel free to do that. It also supports the channel. You can join Team Eric, and there's going to be a really big reason to do that at the end of this stream when I talk about what we have coming up this week. So with that being said, let's talk about the numbers first from this week, because we had all the shows return. And these were the CW final ratings for this week. Now, we had a couple days for them to get all of the numbers in order. And shockingly, I guess to no one, is that the superhero Arrowverse / DC TV shows are the top three shows this week. We see Superman and Lois at the top. Then we see Gotham Knights, which, by the way, pilots actually tend to skew high a lot of times. So what we're going to be watching for Gotham Knights is where they go over the next like 2 or 3 weeks in their viewership, because that will tell us whether or not the show is resonating with viewers. Because a lot of people do it's like a car accident. People slow down and they want to see what it's all about. Now, Andy, with Gotham Knights, on your end of the internet, because I think we have some corners of our internet rooms are a little different. Were people excited for Gotham Knights, or was it going to be one of those shows where you knew right away it was going to be a divisive show amongst like?
Yeah, a lot of us on the network on the UC Pi, we not a lot of them were looking forward to Gotham Knights. A lot of them were actually doing out of it. We're not looking forward to it specifically because they were very upset about Batwoman getting canceled, which I understand. Because I feel like there could have been a world we could have had both shows, but it is what it is now. But I think it was I was one of the few ones that actually was looking forward to it because the more I kept seeing it, like I was kind of I want to give everything a fair chance. And then I watched the first couple episodes, and I'm like, okay, this is actually better than I expected it to be.
Yeah,
So I will say that the only expectation I had was I thought the ratings were going to be a little higher for Gotham Knights. But hey, I think this is great too, honestly.
yeah. And we see the Flash, in third place, and it's hard because like I don't know if the ratings for this week's episode of the Flash reflect accurately, because a lot of people may not have known it was going to be a interlude episode, especially the general audience. They would have just tuned in, whether they wanted to see it, or if they didn't want to see it, they wouldn't watch. So that's a little bit weird when it comes to that. But yeah, we'll see. We're going to come back. We have two more stories in this we're going to talk about, but let's go ahead and we're going to jump into the show, starting out with Superman and Lois. And let me pull my notes up over here. All right, so
Okay,
this week's
I came ready represented.
yeah, I see. Actually, I forgot that I had changed the background of this to primarily blue, but I realized like I'm wearing a lot of blue, which was
I
not
like
planned.
that.
It wasn't planned, but thank you. Okay, so I have my notes here. I have this week's episode was a strong premiere for Superman and Lois. I felt this followed the path of the previous seasons, where he started out very strong and set up a lot of moving parts. I enjoyed the episode a lot, except for a couple things. We're getting into that. Andy, did this episode deliver what you were expecting for a season premiere of Superman and Lois? How did you feel about this season premiere?
The action was bigger than I thought it was going to be. Like, because I mean, excuse me, a lot of the season premieres of DC shows, they're usually always very, very good. They will go for a very strong opening, but like when we first started with Jordan and Clark just flying, and that was a long fly sequence. I'm like,
Mhm.
this is on the CW all. Like
Yeah,
I'm like I don't understand
yeah,
what's happening right now. So I love that there was a lot of great action in it, and of course some surprises. I think this premiere because it was I was talking to someone and I was like trying to remember what even happened to Superman Lois season 2 premiere lot. And like I think it wasn't very memorable, but
Mhm.
is this one was huge. So like for me, because now I can remember like the things in the fortress, which the fortress looks amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was better than I thought it was gonna be. But that's not because I hate the show or anything like that. I just like hey they do always good jobs, but this was better than good.
Yeah. So last season, I believe the premiere, in the chat can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the premiere last season was the Doomsday fake out. I think it was the Doomsday fake out in the premiere last season, but I could be wrong. Because we all thought it was going to be Doomsday, and they were leading into that again. You're right, I don't remember any of the details of the episode, but I do remember it was the Doomsday fake out at the end of the season. So we'll see how this one goes in that. Let's talk about some elements of the episode that stood out to me. It seems like Clark and Lois are in a good place, and this picks up about a month out from the end of last season. And it all seems to spiral when Lois heads into to investigate more about this intergang story that we're going to be getting with Bruno and Lex. She ambushes, I guess, in a not super ambush, but like she tricks John's doppelganger's sister at her medical practice. One of the things the show sets up in this moment is a possibility that Lois could be pregnant. Now, is this something that you would want to see on the show? Is this something that ever popped in your head? Because I don't remember anybody, at least from like the seasons that I've been watching, that wanted to see Lois necessarily have another kid. It didn't seem like something any of the fans were asking for. So I wasn't sure how you felt about it, or what could have been going through the showrunner's head when they decided to do something like this. Like, even if it is a fake out, you know what I mean? Like, what was the thought process behind this?
Yeah, it felt like it was just angst for the sake of angst, because I'm like, you already have two boys. We have Natalie, we have Sarah. There's already a lot of kids on the show. So for me, I never felt like the need to see more kids. The only thing I ever would want to see is like, if they do another multiverse story like they did last season, like maybe somehow bring in Chris Kent, who he's Nightwing in the comics, one of the Nightwings, of course. But otherwise, yeah, I never really thought of like, oh, this would have been great that they get a third kid.
Mhm.
So when when it turned out that it wasn't she wasn't pregnant at all. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I figured. Also, it kind of would have been weird to do at the same time as Flash is doing their pregnancy storyline.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like Todd had him just like peeked into Eric Walker's writer's room, like pregnancy. Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah. And this takes up the majority of the story of the episode, this fake out for this pregnancy. She talks to Lana about it, which great scene, by the way, the two of them together. I thought that was a great scene. She sort of eases Lois's mind and convinces her to follow her heart on this. But Clark, isn't so keen on the idea of having another kid. It seems like he's very happy with their kids being older and, those kinds of things. But the whole time this was going on, I'm going to burst the bubble. The chat is going to, I feel like I'm going to drop something right now that no one's talked about. I haven't seen it mentioned anywhere. It feels like maybe I'm losing my mind with this. But doesn't Clark have the ability to see if she's pregnant? He's got X-ray vision.
God. Yeah, and he has, super
hearing. So if she actually was pregnant,
they have a heartbeat that early?
Even if it didn't have a heartbeat, he could easily see if there's a fetus inside of her. Like he would have been able to totally check. So I'm like, not that it would have like ruined anything, but if she says, I think I'm pregnant, he could have been like, oh, hold on. Yeah, you are. We're pregnant. But that was never addressed.
Wow, I didn't think about it. I didn't think about it.
I don't think he would necessarily hear a heartbeat, but he could definitely see if there was something happening. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just feel like that's
because they've done that in other super media before. Like, didn't they do it in oh my god, why am I blanking on it? Injustice. Well, didn't he was able to hear the heartbeat?
I mean, maybe because, well, first of all, we don't know how far along she would have been, right? She could have been like, I don't know. It's really weird. Okay. So the reason why this confuses me is that she went to John Henry's doppelganger's sister's medical practice. She complained about like sweats and being tired and all this other stuff. And so she checked her and there was this idea of pregnancy. But are we to assume that she got pregnant during the time with Clark at the beginning of the episode? Because that would have been like almost immediately, like it only been 30 days. So she wouldn't have even like medically known if she were, I don't know. Something about the timing of it feels very weird to me. It's like the fake out didn't line up. Because with pregnancies, typically you would not even know until at least a month has passed. So even then you'd have to like, I don't know if you'd be feeling the effects of it. Like, I don't know. Cause I've never carried a child, so I have no idea, but I don't even know if you would feel the effects of the pregnancy within the first 30 days. So
biology on the CW has never really worked for me. So like, I'm just like, okay, just roll with it. I mean, we're in a universe where apparently, Keon can just tell that Iris is pregnant. From just like, well, it's obvious.
So Keon can tell, but Superman can't. That's amazing. So Keon can tell if someone is pregnant before it's even developed a heartbeat, but Superman doesn't know. Okay. All right.
CW.
Let's just move on from that. Anyway, but Clark isn't too keen on having another kid. He's very happy the way things are going with Lois. I almost felt like they were setting up something insidious between the two of them after they had a really good start to the episode. So I wasn't too happy about that. But then we get a shock at the end of the episode where, Lois gets a call, told she isn't pregnant, something else is wrong. And I gasped at this moment when I was talking about it on Twitch because I'm worried this could be something serious. And I really hope the showrunners do Lois right this season, because last season, one of the biggest criticisms is that she didn't get a lot in the back half of the season. So hopefully they rectify it this year. Do you have any hope that Lois is going to get some like actual through line in this story that makes her stand out? Or is it going to be another situation like last season where at the halfway point, it kind of just spiraled out of control? What is your hope for Lois this year? on the show.
Well, I mean, it's good. It's a good thing we don't have any more cults, so that's cults. So that's good, because I think that was like I didn't feel either. I agree with you. I think season 2 was really rough for her, because I think it became. I felt all she had to do was just be upset all season, and I don't like seeing her. I like to see her thrive and be strong and whatever and so on. Um, but it is because I've seen episode 2, so this is very hard for me to answer it. I will just say I'm hoping that
Okay, beyond
that
episode 2.
beyond
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 episode.
episode 2,
Okay, so
beyond episode 2, I'm hoping that the showrunners do that they honor the Lois in Superman and Lois. So,
right. That's my wish, because I'll be honest, I've said before, I think she started becoming my favorite Lois, and now I think she is my favorite Lois Lane. I really, really like Elizabeth in this role, and I just felt like last season we got kind of pulled away from something really good towards the back half. Paige is showing support by non-consensually telling me things about his body. So there we go. The anti-Superman there. The anti-Superman doesn't care about privacy or anything like that. So there we go. Taking a break from his clickbaiting lessons, I see. All right. So we get a lot of cool moments as well. The intro closes the door on a few things. The mines are closed off for good, maybe. The new fortress is established as a training ground for the family, which, by the way, I like that. What did you think of that being like with the training, like set up with like the not really VR, but like the hologram technology? Did you like that? What did you
I
think of
love
that?
that. I was thinking VR actually. I'm like, oh, this is kind of like you know the Kryptonian version of a PlayStation 5 or something.
Yeah.
We had some cool Easter eggs, and I'm like, because the thing was like when when I was watching on the screen, I could actually pause on stuff, and I was like, well, this is flip backwards, so let me like spell it out like, uh, atomic skull. Whoa. So like because for me, I'm just seeing like letters. I'm like, what am I looking at?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I am I enjoy the fortress is always very important for me when it comes to my medium.
Mhm.
And I think, because Smallville did obviously a great job with it. And if there's anything I wish we'd seen more of in the DCEU, it was definitely their fortress. So I love the fact that it's something classic, but also something new at the same time, and that this will be something. Hopefully, we'll get to see this a lot this season, so that we can see Jordan get stronger. Maybe eventually, maybe Jonathan too. I'm still hoping he has powers.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the kids, we had some training montage bonding moments, which you mentioned earlier. Those were really good with all the special effects and everything. Really good stuff. We get to see Lois teaching Jonathan how to drive. And we get Lana having plans for, I think, a new city hall. I think it was the city hall building she was talking about. But this gives us an opportunity to talk about the new Jonathan. So we get some really great moments with him in this episode, particularly with Jordan. And there's a scene on the porch that I thought was really well done. And they feel like they've already got sort of a little bit of like family chemistry between them that I think works for the show. What did you think of this new, I think it's Michael Bishop, right? Isn't that the actor's name who plays the new Jonathan?
I know it's Mike. I think it's Bishop.
Okay.
It's Bishop.
Sorry if I got the name wrong. I'm literally just off the top of my head. What did you think of his performance, and were you satisfied? Because I know a lot of people said they preferred the other Jonathan, which is expected. Jordan Elsass was great in that role. But I think that this is a different take on Jonathan, and I'm happy to see that there's already chemistry. But what was your general takeaway from this episode?
No, I agree with you. He is very he fits in very well, and I think that it definitely feels like a more different take on it. He actually feels more sympathetic, like there's someone that's easy to care for, because I feel like in season 2 they kind of just, I feel season 2 was very much of a character assassination for Jonathan. Like, I didn't like the whole XK.
I was gonna say the whole addiction storyline and all of that.
Yeah. And it was just, it was really disappointing, because I think from the little I've read of Jonathan Kent in the comics, like, he's such a sweet kid, and it's funny, like, this is the guy who's playing him now with Michael. He kind of looks like what I always imagined Jonathan Kent to look like in live action. Like there's something that feels very familiar from the comics,
Mhm.
and I actually prefer this new Jonathan actually because I just
Oh,
you know
you prefer this version so far, is what you're saying?
yeah yeah, and also he looks so much like he could be an actual twin of Alex Garfin.
Absolutely. There's only slight changes that you or slight differences you see between the two of them that I think could easily be explained away, you know? So,
But they're very sweet to each other, and I like that. This is someone that I would love if this Jonathan does get powers. I also would really love it if they could maybe explore his bisexuality like in the comics,
mhm.
because Eric, the show is very very straight.
Yeah, it is. Well, I mean, one of the biggest criticisms about Superman and Lois from early on was the lack of diverse characters, and I know they try to do that with the people in the town. You know, you'll see a room and it seems like it's filled up with like a rainbow of people. But that's all superficial stuff. That doesn't really make a difference in the story. And I think at the end of the day, if you want people to feel the representation, you have to actually tell that through the story. You can't just do it visually. So we'll see where they end up going with that.
It's a perfect time period in his life to do. In high school is when usually a lot of kids do discover things
Yeah,
uh, about themselves. I
yeah,
was going I was going through that when I was in high school. Like I knew I was definitely like not straight when I was like 7 because Tom Welling was literally my first crush. But like high school was like when I actually got I missed that time in high school when I actually got to explore myself and figure things out and then be ready to come out on my own terms. And a lot of people have said in the past, like, like this Jonathan can't be bisexual. I'm like,
mhm,
why are you assuming that he is by default straight just because he has had 2 girlfriends?
right. Yeah, and we're going to talk in a minute when we get to the Sarah stuff. I have a few thoughts about that as well, but we'll get to that in just a second. Hero's Journey had a $2 super chat. Thank you for the support, Hero's Journey. Can I use my bat boat to go to the fortress? Are we sure where the fortress is located? I know it's in a cold climate, but I don't know exactly where. It doesn't seem like it's warm waters. It seems like it's up north somewhere. I don't think they said exactly where it is.
It's definitely not by the North Pole because it would have been. I mean, they would have been. I love that they just walked in like with like just like very thin coats or
Right. It
whatever.
does feel like it's not in a tropical climate though. So I'm gonna assume it's somewhere like above the equator, right? I mean,
What if in this universe, like what if they both like in the some of the comics in the movies, um
mm,
Metropolis and Gotham City are kind of like on the other side of each other, and the forest is kind of like somewhere like in the middle.
mm, maybe. We'll have to wait and see. I think at some point we'll get more information on where it's actually located. But I think the idea that we don't know makes it seem more like it's hard to find. So maybe they won't address that. Also, for anybody that loves it, we get more Cushing drama this season. And I don't want to talk too much about it, except I feel like they're keeping. So, hot take here. I feel like they're keeping Kyle hanging on because he's a great actor. He's part of the family of the show, and they don't want to say goodbye to him because I don't feel like he has much of a story, honestly, and he hasn't really been doing that much other than being this like tension for Lana and the family. And now we have this Chrissy Kyle love drama thing, and I feel bad because I believe the actor's name is Eric Valdez. I think he really likes being there. I just don't know what his story is. You know, I mean, is he just there to like be an issue for Lana, or is there something more? Because now that he's separated from the family dynamic, he's kind of just out by himself. Um, I don't. Either use him more and make it more meaningful, or I don't know, let him go. You know, I don't see because he's a regular. Like
Yeah,
he's a regular in the cast, so
we
he's
have
gonna be
12
in.
of them this year.
Yeah. Do you feel that same way about, I don't want to put you on the spot, I guess, but I do want to know your opinion on it. I feel
No, I
like
agree.
they're keeping him around because they like, I mean, he's a nice guy and he seems like he does have chemistry with the cast, but the story is very, very flimsy with him this season so far. And it was at the back half of last season too.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I was always annoyed with Kyle from the get-go in season one because I thought he was just being so like he was being really mean to Lois,
mm,
and like you know this whole like big city people and whatnot, you know, and like and then by the end of the season, it's like I'm sorry, Lana, you know, I'm sorry,
mm,
and then that was
yeah.
it. I Kyle, I mean, Eric is he's a nice dude, you know. I've seen a lot of interviews with him and so on. He seemed very excited, but you hit the nail on, right on the head. I think that either either let him go or maybe at most just make him guest recurring or something. Again,
Mhm.
I don't again I don't want to like I don't want anyone to lose their job or anything like that. So, but saying that we
That's
have
what
to
I
also
mean.
take
It's tough for me because I never advocate for people not to work, but if the story's not working, what are they going to do at this point? You know what I mean? Like I don't know where to go with it. Anyway, we'll see what happens with him. Okay, let's shift over and talk about the Superman stuff. We had tons of great Superman scenes this week. We had stuff with Jordan, amazing stuff there. The stuff against Adam Man was intense. Even if the story doesn't work out for people, the effects stuff that's going on in this episode are intense. And I feel like, even the daytime stuff looked really good. And I know we can't say, oh, the episode was great just because of the special effects. And I'm not saying that, but I feel like the special effects team working on Superman and Lois are probably one of the best, if not the best, um, working in network television. Because I don't think we've seen, like, the shots in this episode were beautiful. The one where he went with Jordan, when they went to Malaysia and the building was falling apart. I mean, that scene looked
that was
great.
insane.
Yeah. I'm wondering though if they like went through and blew through a lot of their budget in the episode on these for the first few episodes on this one premiere. I wonder if we're going to get less like Superman stuff over the next couple episodes while they try to get back the money they spent on the premiere.
Yeah, it was. That's why I feel like this episode stood out so much more than the last season premiere because like they just went so crazy with it, and I'm like, well, one, I understand that they're only doing 13 episodes, um, but it's just I definitely and it's a good VFX house for sure, and I think you're right. Not a lot of I think network television. I think that's why a lot of science fiction shows and so on are now moving to streaming services and so
Mm-hmm.
on. And but Super Lois, they really nail it. Like again, like when they were flying, in Malaysia, or like when they were again that ocean scene is still really getting to me because I'm like it wasn't just like 5 seconds. That like it's like an actual flying,
Right.
flying training montage.
When we get to Gotham Knights, we'll talk about how special effects can look really bad on TV shows. We'll get to that in a moment. I had a couple of comments I highlighted here, and we do have a super chat before we move on to the next thing. And this is from High Top Samurai, and there's two of these. We'll address these here back to back. But High Top Samurai says representation is not as important as the quality of the story, which was one of his statements. And then to follow up on that, Emmanuel here says, I don't care about John getting powers, which that's fine. I mean, if some people don't care too much about that. And I care about diversity if it's a good story. I actually get more offended when they use it as tokenism, just checking the diversity box. So I want to address both of these things. And this is no offense. I'm not attacking anybody here. But I always hear this when it comes to representation. There seems to be this goalpost for quality that only applies to representation, right? So like if a story that doesn't have diversity isn't good, it's never attacked for that reason. Like they never say, oh, that straight guy in that show, awful because they didn't tell a good story, right? They never attack him for that reason. But the minute you say that diversity is something that you want to see, they're like, oh, but it has to be a good story. So why is that the metric for diverse content? We have to let diversity be told, whether it's good or bad, and then decide if you like it or you don't like it. Don't hold it to a standard that is unfair. There's a lot of movies and TV shows that come out that are not diverse, that are just universally disliked for the most part. So I think we need to get that out of our head, first of all, when it comes to diversity, because representation, there's absolutely nothing with trying representation and it not working. It doesn't work sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't, right? I'll be the first one to say if something feels weird to me. But I think that we need to not hold representation to a higher standard than just a regular piece of media, because I think that's an unfair expectation for marginalized communities. And we do that a lot. And again, this is not me singling out you guys saying that this is what you're saying. I'm saying as a community, we need to just to get away from that. Because tokenism, by definition, is representation that is superficial, meaning you have a character that is just there to tick off a box, that isn't a main character, that can be killed off very easily, that doesn't have any important storylines or anything like that. That is tokenism. If you have a main character that is diverse and has representation and is a character that has a full-fledged story, that is not a token. And that is the difference in that. And it when I see that, I always have to address it. Because I think the word token, people don't realize that it doesn't mean just someone being diverse in a role. It's a very specific thing. It is somebody there just to tick off a box. And we talked about that earlier in Superman and Lois when I said that the show is not very diverse in general. And then they have a lot of people sprinkled around in scenes that are very diverse, but none of those people have any storylines. That is tokenism. That is what tokenism is. When you have those characters that are there just to be a visual representation that have nothing important or any value to add to the storyline. So if you see a character that has speaking lines, that has a story, that is part of the recurring cast, they are not tokens. I'm sorry, that's not what it is. So yeah, we need to be more vigilant about actually holding everything to one standard and not expecting more from other groups that are not usually represented. I'm sorry, kind of went off on a tangent there.
No, I'm just sitting here. I'm just like, if everyone see me like just nodding and nodding, that's because it's like he is hitting every point, because that's what I've also felt like, that it's that anytime I ask for any of these things in my shows or movies, then it's sort of like, well, it should only be if it can be naturally done. Like it has to be a good story. But it's like, but let's put up with every white straight couple that exist, and then they can be as bad as they want. But it's like, but we're not going to call them out on the same thing. So yeah, I absolutely agree. You should clip that. You should clip that.
I mean, it'll be available for everybody. Saying you don't care about representation and diversity comes from a place of privilege. And what that means is you've never personally experienced a lack of content that you feel connected to. So I think that we need to understand that some people like to see themselves in roles. Some people like to see themselves represented in media, and there's nothing wrong with that. And we need to stop infighting with each other about it. I don't really understand. Like anybody that comes to my stream should know by now that I am very, very progressive when it comes to like giving everybody an opportunity. I feel like everyone should be given a shot. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I will never, ever chastise a diverse character simply because they're diverse. If I chastise a diverse character in a story, it's because genuinely something didn't work with that character in the story. And I think if immediately we decide, hey, this character is a woman and they weren't technically a female character in the comics, you're going in with a bias immediately. And you're already setting yourself up to not like it if that's the way you're going to feel about it. Like if you're hyper focused on those kinds of things, you're already going to go in with that kind of mentality about it. So Emmanuel, tokenism doesn't specifically mean a black character. Tokenism can be gay, it can be a woman, it can be any person of color. So I wasn't saying you don't know because you don't know what a black tokenized character is. I'm speaking to everyone in the room.
The proverbial you.
That a tokenized character is a very specific thing. If you have a lead character that is a minority or a diverse character and they have an actual story, they are not a token character. That is not what a token character is. A token character is a character, and I feel like I'm repeating myself here, who comes into a space to represent something superficially. They're not there to add any story. They're not there to add anything to the space they're coming into. That is what a token character is. That's not my definition. That is the definition of what a token character is. So that's not me saying that this is how I feel. This is exactly what it is. And I feel like a lot of people are getting defensive. I'm not attacking anybody.
Yeah.
I'm literally saying I want everybody to win.
Yeah.
I want everybody to have a seat at the table. I'm not attacking anyone. I'm not attacking anybody in the chat. I'm not attacking anybody specifically. I am simply saying that we need to allow people to create. And if you don't like what they're creating, you don't have to support it. But we should not tell people what they can and can't do when it comes to art. I think that falls into a censorship pocket that I don't want to be a part of.
Same here. And
so Andy, sorry, I'm like literally just
but I think it's important to discuss it because like this is one of the bigger shows right now, and I think that it's important to remember that when you have a theater this big, they also need to take more opportunities. And for example, I see people in the chat saying, "Well, this show is already very diverse and so on." But let's look what they're doing. It's not about just having diversity; it's what you do with them as well.
Yeah.
One thing this was. Even though me and Volay were kind of just joking about it a little bit, but when I was talking to him for my interview and I talked about like that, John gets beat up a lot. He gets sent to like he gets in comas, he gets knocked out. So that was kind of me doing sub commentary on that. They don't treat their black characters that well. Like, look what happened to Natalie in this episode, which I'm sure we will talk about.
Well, that's actually the next topic we're going to talk about. But let me jump through these quickly. This one here says what people don't talk about is even white people are diverse. Well, diverse means everyone. Everyone is represented. So it's not. That's why I said I'm not specifically talking about one marginalized group. I want everyone to have an opportunity because diversity requires more than one.
Yeah.
So there's not one group that is diverse because that is the opposite of that. So I'm not saying that just one group is diverse. I'm saying diversity is everyone coming in and being a part of it and giving them the opportunity to actually have a voice. So yes, white people can be diverse if they're included in a cast of people that represent other cultures and things like that. So yes, it would be diverse. And in some situations, white people are the diversity because they're in communities where they're not the largest, they don't make up the largest portion of the population.
Like for example, Black Lightning is an example where Gambi was the only white cast member series regular.
Yep, exactly. So yes, that is a statement that would be accurate. Yeah. All right, we got some super chats here. Anonymous, related to the Flash, not really sure, but we're going to answer it. 199 super chat. Would have been nice to get a flashback of post DeVoe. Okay, well, that would require me to talk about the Flash episode in detail, which we're not there yet. But yes, there is an issue with this Flash episode, and you don't want to go anywhere. We're going to get into it. There's a lot of issues with this episode, and yes, the DeVoe stuff is definitely one of those issues. The other one here is, do you think the season will have breaks since the start? It's almost definitely going to have some breaks. I don't know where, but it's definitely going to have some breaks.
Hopefully not too many. Like, I think this is why they wait to bring back the show till March, so that way we can have a good run of episodes, then take a little break, and then come back for the remaining episode. Because I think they just wrapped season 3, so now there's, because I think last season, what was it? No, it was season 1 where they had to take extra breaks because they were still filming the final episodes of season 1. But I think now it is done, so I think that's why we can have we will have a few more few breaks this season, but not many.
Yeah, thank you for the super chat. You have one more here from Anonymous. Thank you again for the super chat. 199. How is Superman and Lois keeping their funds if their numbers are low? Well, the budget for the season is they've already been all of that is decided before the season even starts.
We'll probably determine we'll have a next season though, if there's a next season.
Yeah. This will definitely affect the season. The next season, if they get a next season. We'll have to wait and see. But their numbers aren't necessarily super low though. They were number 1 on the network this past week. So
I thought the demos will be a little higher. That was All American was the only one. I mean, just All American, not All American Homecoming. All American was the only show that was 0.2, and I'm like, Really? Like none of the other shows are able to cross it. That really surprised me.
So I'm wondering. I didn't see anything about this, but I'll take his word for it. First break is April 18th, new episode that day. So I'll just take his word.
I haven't heard. I haven't seen anything about it, but maybe that is the case.
All right, so let's move over and talk about because we only got a couple more things to discuss for this episode. John Henry, Natalie, and General Lane have a small side story this week. It's pretty heartbreaking. She's missing her grandfather from her Earth, and he seems keen to sort of step in as like a grandfather figure for her, of course, which excites Natalie. I guess she would be excited about this. And John's also happy for her. This all turns around. We find out it's just a ploy from the general to get her to join his program. And I was, as soon as I saw that happen when they were in line for the movie, I was like, this is awful. Yeah, and then John Henry had to confront him. This was bad. This was really bad. And I feel like Natalie, gosh, I feel like her character gets beat up all the time. Like she doesn't, ever since she's arrived on this earth, it's just been one bad thing after another for her. And I'm surprised she's not in like some sort of like PTSD situation, to be completely honest. What do you think about the whole Natalie situation? I mean, she's a character that I think should be explored a lot more because everybody else on the show, they haven't dealt with what she's dealt with, because even John Henry sort of acclimated to this world. Natalie never existed on this world. She's a character that, like, John could technically just take over for his doppelganger if he wanted, but Natalie doesn't have anyone like that. So are you hoping we'll get more of her story this season, or what? Because I feel like she's been shortchanged a little bit.
Yeah, I was watching a little bit of season 2 a few weeks ago, and I just remember being like, I love Taylor Buck. She's an amazing actress, and I agree. Is that like and this is what we were talking about before, about it's not just about just having diverse characters, it's what you do with them as well.
Right.
You can't, that's something Candice Patton has talked a lot about, that I think, not to make this too long, but like, I think that will be, if people want to see what I'm talking about, I think that's a good reference point. Like, you can't just, by just having a black character on the show, that doesn't mean that you're diverse. It's also like, let me put another example. Jane the Virgin is a great example of how you are fully diverse, where you not only just have Latina, Hispanic cast members, but you also give them really good stories. And Lois doesn't do that with their black characters, as well as with their Hispanic characters. Like, they're just, they don't even really acknowledge that much of, Kyle and Sarah's Hispanic side. It was only for that one episode for her, and I can't say this word properly, but for her quinceanera, whatever how you say it, that was the only time they really honored it. I know a lot of people in the Latino community were very, like, they didn't like how it was depicted at all. So it's I when Sam Lane did that to her, I'm like, it is so hard for Ruth for this character. I like, Sam always will pull something.
Yeah.
Because when they were like, I love horror movies too, and I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. That's so sweet.
I agree, Defunct. I was hoping they would do that in season 2, and it happened a little bit, but not enough. Emmanuel says, I didn't like what General Lane did to Natalie, but people beating up on Natalie for some reason. That's the thing, is I feel like Natalie, can she get a W? Can we give her I mean, she gets in trouble for making her own suit. She gets in trouble for doing just about anything. She doesn't really work well in school. She doesn't really have a family. She has to watch her mother take care of 2 other kids, knowing that her mother's not around anymore. I just, not too keen on all of that. Anonymous has a $1.90 super chat. Do you think there's a chance to bring in Supergirl? Probably not. I don't see Superman and Lois, at least not in this season, touching anything Supergirl related. Something like that would have probably already leaked out anyway, to the blogs and stuff. And I also think that a lot of people in the Arrowverse, even though Superman and Lois is on a different Earth, they still feel like Melissa is that Supergirl. So I don't know how well they would take to another character coming in and playing Supergirl. There's always a chance, but I just don't think there's a big chance of that happening. But we'll
Also,
see.
from a budget standpoint, like, can they afford another Kryptonian at this point?
That's a good point. That's a really good point. All right, we're going to wrap this up. We got a couple things, and then we're going to give our final thoughts on this. We see the defeat of Adam Man and the introduction of Onomatopoeia. Is that how you pronounce it?
I say onomatopoeia, but I could be wrong.
Is it Anna, like with a long, like, because everybody tells me I say it wrong. So is it Anna or is it Anna?
Okay, you say yours again.
Onomatopoeia?
And the way I say it is onomatopoeia. Like, I put more emphasis on the O that's because I.
Chat, correct me, because I'm taking an L on this one.
Or correct me. I could be wrong. Because again, that name has never made sense to me. I'm like.
So Andy is correct. Okay, so say it again, Andy.
Onomatopoeia.
Like on a piece of bread.
Yes,
I want pepperoni on a pizza. So onomatopoeia. Okay, got it.
Oh wait, look what the growly bear, like that. I think that helps.
Okay, got it. All right.
We can just call him Pia.
I don't know. I'm going to get it wrong all season, I'm sure. So anyway, we got that introduction, and some people are saying it's another character, but I think it's been confirmed to be that character, right? I mean,
yeah. Oh yes, that is.
Kevin Smith is like,
Yeah.
And Adam Man is presumably killed from a weapon that leaves no trace, but Bruno, who we get introduced, by the way, love that actor, that role. You did an interview with him, right?
Yeah, it will be out on Tuesday. And,
yay, I'm excited.
He has probably some of the better scenes in episode 2 that I'm like, ooh, they went there.
Anyway, so yes, major plans for Adam Man that might carry over to the rest of the season. I'm pretty excited for the storyline. All right. Do you have a good feeling about this season so far after this episode? I know it's probably not your favorite, but are you feeling like it's moving in the good direction or no?
No, I think I rather have. I think this is a better start than I think season 2 did, because I was like, we heard about the cold and the way they were gonna do Lucy. I was like, I'm not here for this. So so far so good.
Yeah. Yeah, another comment, Eric. Yeah, I know it happens all the time. All right, so before we get score, actually, chat 1 to 10. What did you think of this episode? I'm very curious. And we're going to end the poll here and look at the results. The results are Superman and Lois premiere. Do they love it? Yes, 83%. It was okay, 10%. And no was 5% with 136 votes. So that was a pretty solid poll. We're seeing a lot of good scores out here. Kang Vader coming in with a 9 out of 10. Josh Darby with a solid 9. Thank you so much. We got some 10 out of 10s, 7 out of 10. I think 7 out of 10 is the lowest that I've seen. Dino Dragon says 9.5 out of 10. Another 7 out of 10. Interesting. 8.5. I would say for me, looking back at it, I feel like it was probably somewhere between an 8 and a 9.5 if I had to score it, because other than the fake out stuff that they did, I think that the episode was filmed, paced, and produced very well, and I think the acting was done really well. So
I would say 8.5.
Yeah, I can see that. Malcolm Thawne says definitely a 9. All right, 7 out of 10 because of the weird bed stuff. You mean the less than 1 minute scene at the beginning of the episode?
Oh no, they were intimate with each other. Oh no.
There was a lot of people wondering how they actually did that, because they're like, oh, he would probably hurt her or something like that. And I'm like, they already had 2 kids.
Yeah. I think she's fine.
They already had 2 kids. We've already established that they're capable of being intimate.
If this helps, Small really did have an episode in season 9 where Clark had said that he had, thanks to Jor-El, be able to control his powers better when he's intimate with someone.
Yeah. Maddie Love with the 10 out of 10. Wow. All right. That's pretty big praise. Dino Dragon, married couples being intimate with each other. Oh my God, the horror. Yeah. Especially when they already have a family. Come on. So it's criticism. I didn't like the Kyle and Chrissy scene. I didn't like it either. I mean, it was funny, but I don't know,
It just got awkward when then Lana showed up at this
Yeah,
place
that was pretty
before
awkward. That was pretty awkward.
uh,
All right, it is time to talk about the show that everybody's been waiting for, and that is the pilot for Gotham Knights. Gotham Knights came out this week. Episode 1, the pilot, season 1. So this show was very controversial, to say the least. We found out about it when like all the shit was starting to hit the fan with the Arrowverse. Were you actually looking forward to the series, and what were your expectations going into the pilot, Andy? And chat, you can answer as well. Expectations for this pilot going into it.
well, I mean, when all that happened, I was very annoyed because I'm like, we have Batwoman, like, come on, and Batwoman season 3 got so good, but then and then the trailers come out, and I was like, really? It was like it's another CW show, but I also have to remember CW doesn't do good marketing. So I was trying to I tried to keep as many open expectations as I could, and this pilot was a lot better than I thought it would be.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's out of this world. I'm not saying it's like, oh my god, we've never seen this before. But here's the thing: I just want to watch TV that is enjoyable. Like I don't need a Game of Thrones or whatever. I just want something to enjoy as a show, and I enjoy. So that's what I walked away from it.
Okay. I went into this with very low expectations, and the reason why is because I didn't want to go into this thinking it was going to be Titans or it was going to be Batwoman or something like that. I wanted to go into it kind of with the bar so low that all they have to do is give me a decent story and I'd be, down for it. So I was pleasantly surprised as well that I thought it was a lot better than even my already low expectations. So I was pretty happy with it. So the premise is that we have Turner Hayes, not Wayne, which I thought was weird. He was an adopted son, but his name is Turner Hayes. The adopted son of Bruce Wayne that has everything he could possibly want. He's even throwing lavish parties. However, he doesn't know anything about his father's vigilante life happening right under his nose. And I have to say, I found this character to be extremely one-dimensional, not very interesting. I don't know if it's the acting or what, but I need a lot more than just like a basic Playboy clone. Does that make sense? Like I want to see more from this character. Do you think this story makes any sense to you, the adoption story? Because for me, it was a little tough. Like, I think he said that Batman saved his family and then Bruce Wayne adopted him. And I'm like, with all the kids in Gotham, why would Bruce Wayne adopt this one kid? What's the significance of this one kid? And then I thought, is this some sort of weird setup that Turner's real family is connected to the Court of Owls or something like that? That was what I thought. Because I'm like, otherwise, it seems weird that he just picked this random kid and then didn't turn him into a Robin.
Yeah,
he can't be very smart. He didn't know that Bruce Wayne was Batman. Like he's coming to the dinner table with an arm in a cast and like beat up, and he didn't realize that was Batman. I don't know. Anyway, go ahead.
Son, I hurt myself from skiing. But Dad, we don't even have snow in Gotham. But son, I did get myself hurt from skiing. Turner is. I mean, it's unfair. It's unfair for me to answer this because, like, I've seen up to episode 6, and I can definitely say he does get a lot better. But in the pilot, there's, like, I was expecting there more to be like a breakdown of him, kind of. And he cries a little bit about when he found out that his dad was dead, but I was expecting there to be like a bit more. But instead, there's a lot of anger. Maybe that's just like this is just his grieving part that he's anger first, and then later on we will see what's going on. But like he again, I do also wonder how the whole adoption thing works, because it sounds like Turner's parents died, and that's why Bruce took him in. But I almost wonder if your theory is what's going on here, that that the reason he saved him was because maybe the court was trying to go after him or something.
That's kind of what I think, because otherwise, what's the significance of it? And Darth Zen here says, I'll say this, I'm sick of the damn Court of Owls. I've said this for a while. I am sick of Batman stories in general. Like, I feel like we get so many of them. The only thing that's keeping me interested in this show is I don't think I've seen anything like it for Batman. So that's why I'm like, I'm going to give it a shot, because I feel like it's something that I've never read or seen from the Batman family. But I will agree, Court of Owls, I'm totally over that. completely. But maybe they'll do a good job with it. I'm going to give them an opportunity, right?
I like the Court of Owls because it explains so much of why Gotham City is the way it is.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I have over here that, I think that maybe he's tied to the Court of Owls. And what is her name? Cressia is the Alfred of this show, who plays like I don't think she's not really the maid of the house. Maybe she is. I wasn't sure what her role was there. Was she just a caretaker for Turner?
I think it was like a house caretaker or something.
Right away, I knew that she had something to do with everything, because I'm like, that's clear that there's something going on with her. And when they were trying to figure out what was going on with like how these payments came out from the house, I'm like, it was her. She's in the house. It just makes sense to me. Like, I don't know. Then we have Misha Collins as Harvey Dent, probably the highlight of the episode, which I don't think should be any surprise to anyone. I think he just has that on-screen charisma that made him a fan favorite on Supernatural and kept him around a lot longer than he was supposed to be on the show. So he has this relationship with the family, and he's not Two-Face yet, which is a big departure from the comics. I know you've seen a few more episodes, so I don't want to like put you on the spot, but what did you think of him in this premiere, this pilot? Because I think he was probably, I don't know, he was kind of the highlight of the episode for me.
Oh, I agree. If I'm only looking at this episode, he was definitely the highlight, because it's, because he is in this very interesting position of what's going on with the kids now, and yeah, I know. Misha, he's one of the greatest. I've seen a bit of Supernatural, and he, Castiel, he's not the man, he's the angel. But I like that he brought some star power to the show, and I think he's doing something very interesting with Harvey Dent that we haven't really seen before. Because I think Harvey Dent he's not as of a black and white character as many.
They didn't even gender swap him. They address Alfred in the episode.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not like they just took him away and he's not a character on the show. Like,
yeah, wait, who's Oz?
One of the anti-fan channels, heel versus babyface here on.
But you're right, because they literally say, Bruce had Alfred and you have me.
Right,
like,
so it's not a gender swap; it's a separate character completely. So
yeah, I just sometimes people say words they don't understand. They just say words.
She's actually a character from the comics, connected to the Court of Owls.
How about that?
So,
who would have thought?
I mean, all right. Well, he can stay mad, I guess.
Are we about to be the Paul Rudd meme of like, look at us? Who would have thought? Not me.
I mean, it's almost like they're setting something up, but maybe I could be wrong.
Yeah, she was intriguing. I was like,
yeah,
what you doing? What you doing over there?
But speaking of departure from some of these storylines, we have a dead Batman. The story is that someone has murdered Bruce Wayne, who also knew that he was Batman, and framed these kids in the process. The big spoiler is that it's the Court of Owls. We just don't know which character started the ball rolling. I'm going to be honest, though. I'm very tired of Batman missing, retired, dead, whatever. I'm so tired of it. I know that's not something that these TV shows can do. They can't do anything about it, but I feel like they come up with something more creative. Like, I don't know. How do they expect us viewers to put up with this constantly? It's like the studio doesn't necessarily understand what viewers want. The show in that regard has like a promise, but it still feels a little bit cheap the way they handle Batman. And I feel like every Batman adjacent show has to sort of explain why he's not there. And it just gets a little frustrating, because on the first season of Batwoman, that was the premise. Batman's not there, and he was missing, and they had to figure out what was happening. On Titans, they have this retired Batman who is not very good, in my opinion. I mean, I like the actor, but
I don't like him either.
And then here on Gotham Knights, we have a dead Bruce Wayne Batman, and it's just like, in order to tell these stories, they have to do this, and it's kind of frustrating for me, because I want Batman, but I also like these different stories as well. But I also find it hard to believe that Batman can be killed in the way he was killed, because first of all, I think it's just ridiculous that the city would believe that these kids could have killed Batman in his own building. That just seems a little bit ridiculous to me. The other thing is that Batman, the person whose literal superpower is being prepared for anything, somehow gets caught off guard. So the only thing that tells me is that it's someone that he knew. And if it's someone we've been introduced to already, then the maid or the caretaker would have been the only one that could have pulled that off. But I think that's a red herring. I think they're telling us that because we have not been introduced to the character that did it yet. That's what I think. So just brainstorming a little bit. What do you think of this setup for the show with Bruce Wayne and Batman?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like you. Like, I'm also getting very tired of that. There's a lot of Batman story, but also there's for television again because we get it. Movies are they get first dibs on Batman. I get it. I wish but I still think there's a good. I think there's a good case to be made that Batman would work great as a television show, like a
It
great
would.
HBO show, like every Sunday. Like very noir, very dark. But I can like the idea of these kids growing into heroes as the Gotham Knights. But like for example, could there have been a version where like because Gotham City is obviously a huge city, there's the east side, west side, side of Gotham. So why couldn't these be kids who become the Gotham Knights in inspiration of Batman instead of having to kill Batman? Like we don't have to see Batman. We can just know that he's out there, but they're taking care of another neighborhood of Gotham City.
How about
So,
Batman just dies from some other thing that isn't murder? Like maybe he dies from like a disease or something that doesn't require them to have a mystery about it. Like he dies of old age. They place it 30 years in the future, or something like that. I mean, it's
Batman
always
Beyond.
some like, yeah, I mean, I'd be okay with that. But
Um,
it's one of those things where I feel like when the show's premise is looking for Batman, I don't know. I don't like that. I mean,
The only reason I can justify this, I think they are justifying it, is because I think that they need they want to have someone like Turner be able to have a reason to go down this path. Like this is something that is very personal to him.
yeah.
By but I can see it from your point of view as well. But yeah, I'm excited to see more what's coming up after episode 6. So, but yeah, I think that once like let's say there's a season 2, once they resolve this whole Batman murder mystery thing, I think the show will start able to get into a meteor foundation.
Mm, yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, again, I don't think it's the worst thing. I just feel like I'm just tired of seeing it. But let's talk about the criminal trio that we meet, which is Duella, Harper, and Cullen. Duella is supposedly Joker's daughter. We're to assume that is the real story. Harper and Cullen are siblings, where Cullen is trans, which is great representation. We get a little bit of backstory on him, but they need to do a lot more. I know you can't spoil anything, but I'm hoping that we get a lot more diving into his character as well as his sister, because they both seem to kick a lot of ass. What are your thoughts on these three characters as sort of this package deal starting out together in the first episode? Are you happy with the way they were introduced, or how do you feel about
It was so unexpected because I was just like I felt like we were gonna have like a more subtle introduction, but no, we just see him like immediately breaking in and stealing and so on. Colin is like I want to adopt him personally. Like when he in the scene where he's like telling the lawyer, he's telling Harvey like performative activism and calling him out. I'm like, my little boy, I would adopt him. I love him so much. His sister reminds me a lot about my own big
that
sister.
was, I honestly though, I thought about that. I was like, that was very Gen Z writing, which is nothing wrong with that, but that was very like when I saw that, I was like, this is speaking to like this like that dialogue was definitely for like the Gen Z millennial audience.
I appreciated they did that because I was
I mean, it's
performative activism. I never thought CW would ever let a show say that because
right.
CW gets accused very much of being performative activism. So like when he said, I want to
Yeah.
adopt him. I will take care of him." And his sister, yeah, like reminds me a lot about my own big sister. Which is not to say that my big sister has ever been framed for the killing Batman. I don't want to think that he's gonna find this and be like, "Why are you saying that I am so much like these other characters when like I do nothing like these people do?"
Yeah. I will say though, one of the issues I did have with the episode, not necessarily that scene, but I feel like the episode in general was a little bit frantic in places, like scenes. The way they went together didn't totally work for me. There was a scene where they were at the school together, and there was a conversation happening, and then it cuts to the Batcave, and that conversation continues in the Batcave, and I'm like, do they not talk at all from the moment? Like the moment we left them at school to the point they got to the Batcave, did they not talk at all? So I thought there was some issues with the writing and dialogue in the show that I think they need to pull together. You've seen it. I can't ask you your opinion on that, but I hope personally that they push hard with the writing and the editing of this show, because I think in a show like this where special effects are not the number one thing, you need to really nail the story and the characters. This
I
to
can
me
say
needs to be a very strong character driven series.
Yeah, I can say that once they're, I would say the reason why the later episode gets better, I can say that this won't get me in trouble, but the reason the episode later on gets better is because they're a lot more together in this. I think like the pilot, the only weakness of the pilot is that these characters are so spread out. But once they're together, it feels more organic. It has a way better flow. Which is why pilots can be hit or misses. I think it's a good pilot.
Yeah.
But you have a lot of good points, and that I think that those concerns will slowly start to get resolved because they do. The ensemble get to work more together and so on. Because that's why it's called Gotham. It's not called Turner Hayes the show or Duella the show.
Right.
Duella is one of my favorites. Like she is.
So let's talk about her for a second. Yeah. Duella is very, and I said this in my review, and it's like I'm curious what they're going to do with this character, because to me she feels like Diet Alice from like Batwoman, but with a dash of Harley Quinn. Like that's kind of, I think I even said that in my review, that she reminds me a little bit of like a combination of those two characters. And I have to say, after watching it a second time, I appreciated a bit more some of the nuance in her performance with this character. Especially the scene where they're locked up together. I thought that was really strong from her. I can't ask you these questions, but I really hope
try. I can. Sorry, I can try. I can try to do my best to.
I need her to be a very important character on the show. I feel like she needs to be an important character moving forward in the series, because I think that she brings a bit of chaos to what Turner's personality is very static and stoic. And I think that is sort of like the whole why Batman and Joker work so well. So I think that I need her to bring that spice into his unseasoned, chicken. That's the best word to put it. I don't know.
That's a good metaphor.
I don't know if her name's Duella Dent on the show. I can't remember if they said that or not. But...
From all the press listings that I've been given, they're only listing her as Duella.
Okay.
So I wonder if it's like, will Harvey adopt her later, or will there somehow be revealed that she never was Joker's daughter? That she's like.
I think that might be a mistake. I think that she's gonna find out that was not her father, because I'm pretty sure that I saw Joe Chill being cast for the show.
Yeah, and I could. This is why I can say about the Joe Chill episode. I was not expecting what they did with Joe Chill in that episode. It's a very good episode, and that's. I don't know if the episode number has been revealed, but it's one of these first 6 episodes. I can definitely say that. But Duella does get better in coming episodes, and there's a moment that I think is very. There's a moment where we start getting a little more into her depth, that she isn't just all this chaos and so on. Like again, I agree with you. She's the one we need. Someone like her on the team. She is the wild card. She is kind of like the unexpected surprise that can come at any moment.
Yeah.
For me, I'm just trying to shake because when she got cast, the photo they used of her, and she also looks a lot like her, but I was like, baby Margot Robbie. Like she looks very much like her.
Maybe that's where I'm getting that Harley Quinn vibe from. Maybe it's just the visual look of her character. Maybe that's what I'm. Yeah. So Andy gets sometimes he gets advanced copies of stuff because of his job. So yeah, he has access.
I'm actually Greg Berlanti's son. His first one, the one he was ashamed of. No, I just had to work really hard for it. But
This is something none of us know whether or not, because I mean, like, it really just depends on what the CW decides they want to do. I mean, that's what it comes down
the
to.
only thing I would say is that if we had to look between Superman Lois and Gotham Knights, here's what I could say: Superman Lois is a very expensive show. Gotham Knight is very practical. I know you want to talk a little about the CGI later on, so but like, if anything, if they're gonna keep at least one of these genre shows, I would expect Gotham Knights to get another chance as opposed to Superman Lois. And for me, I understand that people would be like, but adding the ratings and so. But like, the thing is, the ratings are not everything. And as Eric was mentioning before, how does because we were answering a question about how does Superman Lois get so much funding for so low numbers? But like they've already wrapped season 3, but if the numbers are still low for season 3, that will determine if they will want to do season 4. Because like, why are we spending all this money? We're not getting any revenue back.
Right. Yeah.
So,
all right. So the next thing, we do have a super chat. We'll answer that in just a moment. Okay. So we have Carrie Kelly, who's one of my favorites. Okay. I loved her in this episode. She's playing Robin. I really liked her intro. I want to see more of her story. We get very little of her, but I loved how we were introduced to her early in the episode. And then we see her later on in the costume, I guess. But I am a little confused. Let me just put that out there. Is she the only Robin that's ever existed? I'm guessing she is, because no one knew she was. And obviously, if there was another Robin and Batman was murdered, they would come to town to figure it out. Like if there was a Nightwing or a Red Hood or a Red Robin, anyone like that, they would have came to figure it out. So are we supposed to assume that Carrie is the only Robin that's ever existed in this world?
Maybe. I mean, I don't. I mean, because I think the showrunners have said this in various interviews that they will kind of start touching upon it in later episodes about like what this family looks like if there is one. Okay. But I did really love Carrie, because I'm gonna be honest, I don't like her that much in The Dark Knight Returns. I know Frank Miller fans are gonna kill me for saying that, but Nadia was so charismatic here, and yes, you will definitely get a lot more, because I agree with you. She did not get a lot to do in this episode, but there will be more. There's I don't think this is a spoiler, but you will actually get to meet her mom.
Okay, cool.
So that's a good story.
Okay, so last character I want to talk about is Stephanie. Now, I have some issues with this character, and on my second watch through of this, I know. Okay, so my complaint about this character isn't necessarily just about the character; it's about how these shows are structured in general. Why does every show, all these kids and these groups of people, one of them is like this world-class hacker? Why is that always a thing? I get it. To get the ball rolling, they want to have her behind the computer. She's going to be the person working at the Batcave. I get all that. But it's just like she walks in and immediately she's like a hacker. I'm like, what? Like, no. Okay. Also, I don't think she was necessarily portrayed badly. Like, I don't think there was anything wrong with this version of the character. But I'm just like, I don't know. Again, very one-dimensional. To me, very one-dimensional character. And so I really, really hope they give more of her character and explain a little bit more of her life. Because right now she's giving me like, I'm just the cheerleader at school and I'm also a hacker. That's all she's giving right now for me. And you're sitting there like something and you're not going to say anything, and I get that.
I was scratching. I was scratching my knee.
I thought you were giving me like that. I can't say anything about.
No, I'm scratching my knee, but I can say that there's more depth given to her, and I don't know if is Stephanie a hacker in the comics. Like is this something she does?
I don't know a ton about her, like all of her stories, but I don't think she's. As far as I know, I don't think that she's a big hacker. Maybe I'm wrong. If somebody's a huge fan of Stephanie in the chat, like you could give more information on her, I'd appreciate it. I'm actually, after we saw the show now, one of my goals, I'm going to go on my app and I'm going to download a bunch of books with some of these characters in it so I can get more up to date. Because like I said, I'm kind of burned out on Batman in general, but hopefully I can read some stories. So she is a spoiler in the comics for, okay, I get it. I knew that. But I'm going to read some stories about her, and hopefully there's more to it. But maybe the show will go in a different direction with her. I feel like
Yeah,
they're
a
going to
good run.
reintroduce
You
all
could
these
you
characters.
a good run. I would recommend that. I know from a lot of people, like this is like like status quo. Stephanie Brown commentary is Brian Q. Miller's Batgirl run,
Okay.
where she was Batgirl. Like I think that was something you would enjoy. But I mean, if
Okay.
she's a hacker in the comics, great. But Eric was like every show must have like a hacker
Look,
or
I know
something.
people that work in computers for a living and they're not hackers, but somehow in these shows, there's always in like a group of 5, one of them is like a computer hacker. It's
Yeah.
really weird that it's always like that.
They even made Gambi, poor Gambi on Black Lightning, a clothing designer.
Yeah.
So, I
So there we go. Yeah, Stephanie seems like an oracle here. I would agree with that.
I'm
Alexander
very
says Tim
interested.
Drake was a computer genius in the comics. Yeah. All right. So
They gave her Tim's one of
storyline,
his
I
quote.
guess. Yeah. Or one of his stories. All right. So now that we've covered the characters, let's talk about some of the substance within the episode before we wrap up this conversation and talk about the Flash this week. The VFX and practical effects were awful in this episode. They were really, really, really bad. That opening shot of the city is one of the worst modern VFX shots I think I've ever seen. And I'm surprised they didn't give it a second pass before they released it for television, because it looked really bad to me. Now, not all the city shots look bad, but the opening one did. And I was kind of shocked that happened. But the one scene that bothered me the most in the whole episode was the funeral scene where it was supposed to be snowing. Not only was it unnecessary for it to be snowing, because it didn't really make any sense. There was no snow on the ground. There was no snow in the trees. There was no snow on the cars, really. Like this snow is blowing through characters, like a fan is blowing the snow through them, and it's clearly not snow. And I know it's TV. We're supposed to just, like be immersed in everything or whatever. But it looked like little pieces of like cotton or paper or something. It didn't look like snow. And so, Willish World, raining would have actually been really easy for them to do, because making water come down on top of people is pretty easy.
It's very Gotham City too.
But it was snowing. I think it was supposed to be snowing, but there was no snow accumulating. It was bad. So my issue is like I need them to hopefully step that up a little bit. I think there's just not. So the Batman tech with Stephanie. Yeah, but see, I would have appreciated if she would have just sat down to use it, and then she's like, "Oh my gosh, this is so intuitive. I can do this. I can do that." I actually would have been more okay with that than her just being a hacker. So, step up the special effects, Gotham Knights. That's all I got to say. It doesn't have to be like Superman and Lois level. But if you're going to do a practical effects scene where it's supposed to be snowing, like, go the extra mile for that. Like, it just didn't look real.
I had no problems as much with the effects again. I didn't think too much about the opening scene, but like, I think they would save some more of that budget for maybe the Batcave, which I love. I love this Batcave so much.
That's a good point. I think this Batcave is one of the best Batcaves we've ever had in terms of the way it looks. Like,
it's
really
better
good.
than Batwoman's Batcave.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys, but don't get mad in the chat. But I enjoy it. I mean, I also just love this Gotham City. Like, and I think it's because it's not in Vancouver. Because I wasn't there was never a point where I was like, oh, that's where the Flash filmed. That's where Superman Lois filmed. It was fresh. It was new, and they're taking obvious inspiration from Batman the Animated Series. So, which I really like. And I can tell you this, guys, the showrunners, they are all three of them. They are such nerds of DC. So like, you know, like there's
I
Easter
mean,
eggs.
Natalie is a huge fan of DC.
I love,
Like,
yeah, I love, yeah, oh yeah, that, and she was so much fun to talk to. So like, it's like, pay attention to the detail of like what they have, what they planted in there. But yeah, this Batcave is, it's also very, very timeless Batcave. It's because you know, Chad and James, they worked on Gotham, like the Gotham Fox
Wait a
TV
minute,
show.
Lance. I didn't think you were around, but here you are in the chat. He says,
That
"How dare you
sentence
not?"
out of context that can be taken in such wrong ways.
Oh, look. Oh.
And I also even think their Batmobile was cooler than Batwoman's Batmobile. But I actually like that Javisha even got a Batmobile to begin with.
Yeah.
All
right. Well, there's a poll going on right now in the chat, you guys. Please answer the poll. We're going to share the results of that in just a second. To wrap this up, I think the pacing was a little wonky. The dialogue suffered here and there, but it wasn't so bad that I turned it off or that I was distracted. That's a good thing. I think the show could turn into something pretty solid. I don't think it'll be a superhero show like the ones we have now, but I think it could be something like maybe a Riverdale or a Nancy Drew with like DC characters, which I don't think is the worst, but it does feel a little dated for the CW and what the CW is now. What about you, Andy? Any final thoughts on it based on your personal opinion of the show?
Brody
Chat, give your score. Give your score, chat, by the way.
Brody was the most boring character.
I didn't even remember him.
Yeah, I didn't care for Brody at all. I'm just like, he's fine. Not fine. Like he's just there. No offense to the actor. He's not needed. We don't need him. Maybe there will be a point of him later in the season. But like,
well, 8 out of 10, 7.5 out of 10.
Oh, interesting.
6 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 9 out of 10. Wow.
Impressive.
Lance has the best rant videos. Oh, you should go back to some of my old rant videos. No offense to Lance. Some 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. I grade it 0. Wow.
That's very harsh.
I don't like giving anything like a super, super low score. Like I think the lowest I'll go is like a 2 or a 3 because I feel like anything lower than that, you say that the people that worked on it are not worth anything, and that's not.
Yeah, really. The lowest I've ever given any of these pilots, I gave it a small 2-hour pilot, like as a 2.
The stranger, who was Brody, right?
Exactly. The guy who was basically Turner's rival at school and who was hooking up with Stephanie at the party.
The one that needs a new hairstylist. That's Brody. The
hairstylist. Actually, okay, this is not a spoiler. Okay, so you know how between episode 1 and 2 there's usually a long break before they start filming the second episode. Yeah. Brody's hairstyle is so because the episode 2 is supposed to take place like the next day or something like that. So when you see Brody. Look at his hair; it matches nothing the way he looks in the pilot. I'm like, oh, buddy, you clearly had a haircut.
You missed my rant reviews. I don't know. I've been sort of ranty lately. My Flash review was pretty ranty, and it's good. We're gonna get ranty here in a second too.
Yep.
So if you miss those, get ready. This next one's gonna be a real stinker. All right. Here we go. We are going to end the poll, and the results are: will you keep watching Gotham Knights? It is literally divided down the middle. 51% says yes. 48% said no. So there we go. Mike Glenn gives it a 4 out of 10. Mike didn't care for it. Okay. All right. King Vader says, I give it a 5 out of 10. Some good moments, but they're bad ones too. Yeah. So the thing is, though, I think going in to this episode, a lot of people were expecting an absolute train wreck, and it just wasn't a train wreck.
Yeah. And that's what I like people have. And that's why I like that people were wrong at. And that because the thing is, guys, 2-minute trailers, they don't do justice to the show at all. Like, let's remember this. The reason the Flash trailer probably impressed so many people because it was 5 minutes long. And they showed so much more. And it was also done during a different era of the CW. Yeah. So I'm glad to see so many people are trying to give this a chance.
If Lance wants to jump on, I've already asked him if he wanted to join us today. So if he's available, he can I'll send him a link. Crazy Cat Lady with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Crazy Cat Lady. Good to see you. And she says, watch Shazam and the Flash this week. Shazam was funny. Flash was fine. 9 out of 10 and 6 out of 10. Hi, Andy. She says hello to you, Andy. So there
Hi.
she goes. Thank you for being here.
She meant 9 out of 10 for Shazam, right?
The way it's lined up, it looks that way.
Okay, thank God. Thank God, because I'm like, because Flash does not deserve a 9 out of 10. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll talk we've got some Shazam we're going to talk about at the very end. We're going to talk about that very briefly. All right, so let's see all this stuff pop up. All right, it is time. If you've been waiting, it is time to finally talk about this episode of The Flash this week. All right. This episode was The Flash season 9, episode 6. Otherwise titled The Good, the Bad, and the Lucky.
Was it lucky though? Was it?
I don't think so.
We were not lucky.
So.
We were not lucky.
I'm going to just go out on a limb here and say that this is probably my least favorite episode of The Flash ever. Or at least in the top 2, with the Allegra episode from Rayo de Luz, I think was the name of it. What an absolute waste of time from this season of The Flash. And I don't say that very easily. Like, I try to always find something that's worth like going into it or whatever. This episode is 100% skippable, like, except for the last 1 or 2 minutes of the episode. So maybe it's 98% skippable. It was just so bad. I honestly can't believe that it left the writer's room in the state that it was in. And this is no offense to the writers. I'm just wondering, did no one want to call someone else out on their writing? Like, I don't get it. It didn't work. Just none of the storylines worked for me. What do I have here? So the first thing I say is, Andy, you love The Flash. You're one of the biggest supporters of the show. Did this episode hit you as hard as it hit everybody else?
I'm never gonna watch this episode ever again.
Okay.
Never. I will if I ever need something from this episode, I'm gonna go on YouTube and just watch it with sound scenes. This was hard. Like, I did see a lot of people in the beginning of the chat being like, does Andy ever complain about the fun? I do, but this was rough to even talk about. Like, there was like this. Even on the Flash podcast this week, like we like none of us we were so let down by this episode that we were like trying to talk about like Picard or Pretty Little Liars, and that's how bad it got. And I look at this episode from 2 different angles.
Right.
One, I look at it and say, this is obviously an episode where they did not have Grant and Candace because of contracts. Right. It's very normal that leads in a long running show will eventually start negotiating for like they will negotiate for time off, or like at least an episode where like they're like, oh, I only have to work like 1 day or something like that. And like Hannah Grass actually gave a really good description of it last night on Endless Multiverse. So it's like, again, but at the same time, so if we take that issue out of the side, it's still a really bad story because Allegra and Cecile are not engaging characters for me. Like, I think that the reason other interludes have worked is because we've either focused on Caitlin or Cisco or A. Harrison Wells, something like that. Characters that we, as longtime viewers of the show, have connected with. But for me, it's like, I like Allegra. I like Cecile when she's not on her superhero agenda. I'm sorry. Like, she's not a superhero to me. And for me, I'm like, we needed other characters. This would have been a great episode to do a Jay Garrick episode, like have Jay and Joan come in. Last season we had a great Barnora episode. So like, why can't we focus on characters that are a little more integral to the world of the Flash? That's not Cecile, and that is definitely not Allegra. And so I think this is also their obvious way of trying to save money back for the bigger stuff that is coming up, that we if people haven't seen set photos, that there's big things coming. But also, yeah, like this is the episode where I'm like, I've had it with Cecile. Like, I and done. Like I don't
Well,
like.
let's
Yeah,
jump into the problems with that. I have a
yeah.
lot listed here. All right, so we have the two stories. Let's start out with the first one. Becky's back. No real info on how that she's back, other than she's lucky. That's, unless I missed it, that's all she really says. And she knows about Crisis somehow.
That's how lucky she is.
I was like, do these writers get any guidance at all? This shouldn't be the case. She shouldn't know about Crisis. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, all right. She's framed because she gets a ring on her finger and her good luck turns bad. How fun, right? What a fun storyline. A metahuman with bad luck. What a great fun storyline to follow. And she gets arrested, and Kramer thinks this is the perfect job for Cecile, which is fine. Cecile goes to talk to Becky, and at this point, she should have been in meta cuffs, which I don't think she was. I think she was just sitting there at the table with no meta dampeners on at all, just sitting there. And this turned into a big issue for me because she should have had meta dampening devices on right away if her luck was harming her. Like, they have cuffs, they have necklaces, they have bracelets. There's no shortage of temporary meta dampening technology. Matter of fact, it was a plot point 2 episodes ago when they tried to break in and steal that device from the military, where there was a meta dampener there. So this tech is everywhere. I believe that the police station has it in some of the rooms, as far as I know.
Yeah. Oh yes, they do.
So immediately that would have like changed the whole story. Well, Malcolm, the thing is, if her luck powers worked that way, they would have never even been able to put the ring on her finger. Think about it. If her luck powers prevent her from having bad luck, how would a ring that's going to reverse her powers ever end up on her finger in the first place?
They didn't think it through.
It's not like she can walk around and force good luck and bad luck. That's not how her powers worked. Yes, also her apartment was an active crime scene. That was another thing that I thought about too.
Yeah, I was like, Seal and Lego should not be able to go in there.
Well, let's continue with my notes then here.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Since you said that. Why is Allegra out in the field with Cecile and Becky? Matter of fact, why was Cecile dealing with this at all? The minute someone comes looking for Becky, they should have contacted Kramer or Chester or anyone to let them know what's happening, but they don't. We go down this like buddy cop story with 2 characters who shouldn't even be in that situation.
I would rather seen Chester and Kramer go on there together, develop Kramer a bit more.
Also, Kramer, her meta powers is to take other people's meta powers. So she wasn't affected by Becky being there with bad luck? That didn't affect her at all?
Well, wait, what if she did mimic bad luck by becoming stupid and not going to the crime scene?
Dino, I've been asking this for a while now, since last season. At this point, I think it's a non-factor. We are supposed to assume that company runs on its own without either of their highest executives being there, especially during a very important transitional period for the company. What? Right, but the luck power is not controllable.
Mm-hmm. So if you mimicked it, then it would be uncontrollable still, and then that's why it's.
And we don't know if the luck power is something she can actually force mimicry, or if it would just, it's luck power.
But wait a minute. If her luck power could trigger her mimic power, doesn't it become like a paradox then?
I didn't forget about Taylor, but the company is going through a major transitional period right now. Taylor's like a key holder or a second assistant manager.
Wait, Taylor became a manager?
I don't even know if she did or not. People keep mentioning her name. I don't think they ever promoted her that I can remember. So
No,
as far as I know, she's just another reporter.
that's what. Yeah, I think they're thinking. I think they're thinking about Tanya, the redheaded journalist. But they never like they just say that they're just saying they're on staff. Um,
Yeah, Mike says Iris was for a brief moment. She was doing it for the call. Yeah, so the thing is, they set up this story of CCC Media and Eric Wallace. Not going to harp on that because writers do what writers do. They keep they're giving us breadcrumbs of this like CCC Media thing, and I want more of it. I'm asking for more. Like I want more of the Iris stuff in CCC Media because I find it to be quite interesting. But they keep insisting on taking Allegra and Iris and shoving them into Star Lab stories.
At this point, I'm just going to assume that Sue takes care of everything when they're not.
Yeah. Hero's Journey with a $5 super chat. I'm very sorry, Eric. I'm tired of the Allegra Cecile hate when these same people support God Complex Girl. So I know you're talking about Supergirl. It has nothing to do with those. I appreciate the super chat. But the two things have nothing to do with each other, honestly.
Yeah. That was just his way to get his hatred in for Supergirl in there.
It's fine. Thank you for the super chat. He had another one here about the fire extinguisher scene. Looks like a lot of soap and water on Cecile Allegra, Eric Wallace. I'm not going to go down this. Okay.
That's not even what it is, though.
No. I know. But there's something that I was seeing on social media that this is causing me to remember. There was some other stuff being said about this scene. And I've seen memes of it that I'm not going to share here.
People care enough about this episode to meme it?
Well, this scene.
Okay.
Because it looked like something else to them.
Right? Can you write to me in the private chat just so I know? Because now I'm curious. now I'm kind of curious.
Yes. So I've already seen the memes of it. Yes, a bubble party, Kata. That's what I mean.
Bubble party.
I thought there's nothing more irresponsible than having two prominent women on your show and having a scene where they get covered in this stuff that's like white and gloopy on them.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm just gonna leave it at that. And that was one of the things I saw that I was like, that's probably not what they had intended for those characters. But those memes exist. Just avoid them at all costs.
I didn't know that was what people were taking away from it. I thought it was like, this is just Flash at its worst comedy.
Yeah. Okay, so the Becky storyline. We have this guy who's trying to trick Becky so he can use her bad luck to gamble and win and frame her in the process. All of this feels very, very convoluted. Let me explain why. So the guy, was his name Dom or Tony? Which one was Dom? Which one was Tony?
Tony was a douchebag and Dom was her fiance.
Okay, so Tony is the one who's got the minions that he's sending after her and stuff like that. Anyway, he held her against her will. I had to write this down because this is just how convoluted this is. Yeah. He held her against her will at a blackjack table. I believe it was blackjack, forcing her to use her bad luck to always lose so he could win. Here's the problem with this situation. If he was going as far to send out his minions in broad daylight, that means he isn't against them committing crimes. So he's totally okay with shady shit. So what is stopping him from just robbing the casino for their money? Or robbing this neighborhood casino thingy they were doing? What's stopping him from doing that? If he's okay with like framing people for murder and committing crimes and kidnapping people. What? Petty theft is not, he's too good for that? But he'll like attempt to murder people and kidnap people but stealing money is where he draws the line?
If I can interject.
Yeah.
When I was trying to understand that plot for the second time I watched the episode, I was like, oh, This is some white shit, white people shit. Like, I mean, we're not supposed to understand that.
Well, Andy, but it gets even worse though. It gets even worse.
I know
me, right?
I know it gets worse.
Okay, so if robbing is too difficult, it's clear in this episode that he is capable of appointing his own dealer. Matter of fact, he was able to block off the only major blackjack table in this Applebee's, because that's what it looked like to me. So why not just grab a regular person, a regular dealer, who enforce them to let him win? Because if that was the only criteria, he didn't need her bad luck because he was controlling the table. He had his minion there with a gun pointed at her to force her to deal to this guy. But he appointed her as his dealer, meaning he could have just had anyone do that and let him win. Okay.
Wow.
Let's go even further than that.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, there's so many layers.
No one was watching the table other than him and his minion. So who was there to make sure that his wins were legit in the first place? No one. Why not just take the poker chips at the table, the whole pile of them, and go cash them out? No one was regulating his table.
This is a long way to do that.
The security guy at the table was his guy. And that no one else was up there but them. Just very convoluted. Also, this neighborhood game was capable of making that much money for him to collect. We saw the space. There was like, what, maybe 30 people in there? And he was able to make, I think someone said it was like 50 bones or whatever they said, 50,000 off of this. Like, it wasn't even a real casino. It made no sense at all. They were serving food in like foil plates. It was like a potluck. How was he making any money off of this game at this little neighborhood casino?
Also, because I actually went to ask my dad, because he's had, like, he's worked in the restaurant business and so on. He's like, that's not legal. Like, they had to, like, a bar would have to get a gaming license first.
Yeah.
So it's like the fact that they could just orchestrate that quickly. He was like, this is the most ridiculous thing he's ever seen. So,
that whole scene to me was ridiculous. If you will go as far as to have your minions in there with weapons, sort of like forcing people to do stuff, you don't need a meta with bad luck. It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. It would be different if he needed her bad luck to break into somewhere or to do something that he didn't have the ability to do, but nothing was stopping him from rigging this table.
I felt I just lost. It was
supposed to be illegal. There were like regular people walking in and out of that building. And if it was illegal, that makes even less sense, because why would he need someone again to rig the table for an illegal underground gambling operation? Why?
I felt I lost brain cells hearing that recap. I don't have many left, so
I just Silhouette Animator with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Silhouette Animator. Do you think they had a Mia Queen episode planned after Red Death but couldn't get her back, so they fast tracked to fill it? I don't. Andy might have more information on that than me. I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, Kat is on. What was the show? Wait, it's one of the Walker shows she's on.
Walker Independence, right?
Yes, there you go. Yeah, I don't know if this was meant to be a Mia episode. But I would have taken it.
I would have 1000% preferred that. Actually, I could think of a million different things that would have been better than this episode, honestly. Like, in terms of, like, I don't think it was fast tracked either. I feel like this was probably written like well in advance or whatever. But yeah, I just that whole storyline to me was an issue. It was an issue when all of a sudden, like, Chester was telling them not to go out and use their powers in public when they've been doing it all day long.
But again, but this is all the same show that has like Cecile going, I don't want to use my powers on people without their consent. And then she does
Andy, you just brought back some. Okay, another rant. Hold on. Let me catch my. Whew, hold on, take a breath here. The fact that Cecile, I'm glad you brought this up. This was not.
Okay, I thought you were getting angry.
No. I didn't have this in there in my notes at all. The fact that an entire episode last season, I think it was season 7. Was it?
No, it was season 8. It was with Jacko.
The entire episode where he was framed, that was the point of the episode. They thought that he was the person doing all of this. They didn't know if he did or not, but they thought that he was framed, or at least Barry thought he was framed, and approaches Cecile to try and get her to just read Jacko to make sure that he's being honest. And she's like, that's ethically against my values, right? And then she walks around and reads people all day long without their consent. And I was like, okay, maybe it's just with her clients. Maybe that's what she meant, because we hadn't really seen a case similar to Jacko's yet at that point. It was just her walking around and reading people, right? And I'm like, okay, maybe it's just her clients.
But wait a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
But that would be more helpful for her to win cases and prove their innocence.
Yes, it would.
It's more intrusive that she does it to her own family members. Like, Joe, why are you being so anxious? Oh, Barry, I feel like you're.
But Andy, it also her powers as a empathic metahuman lawyer. Hold on, let me put this together in my thoughts. Hold on. No one knows that she has powers, right? Like, she's still a secret identity. Correct?
I think so.
Okay. So as a lawyer, she's lying to everyone because she has not revealed that she's a metahuman, meaning that she is practicing doing this with her powers not being a factor, which is why she said it was ethically a problem, I believe. But she still walks around and does it all the time to everyone without their consent. Which means that brings into question whether or not she's honest as a lawyer, because she's not telling anybody that she has powers when she's doing these things. The other thing is that, hold on, let me connect the dots here.
Yeah, take your time.
In this episode, she reads, I believe in CCC or CCPD, she reads her there without even asking her, like, if she's being honest or not. So right away, she reads a client without even asking her. And then when she has the gambler come in to speak to her, she reads him too. So if she has exposed she's a meta, that makes it even more troublesome for what she does for a living. Because they don't need to try a case. They could sit her down in a chair and have her read every single person that comes into the courtroom to say if they're lying or not. Right? Think about it. If her powers allow her to tell if somebody is lying, then they don't need to even try people in Central City. They could have Cecile sitting in that room and bring people in and say, are they telling the truth or not? She's a accurate lie detector, technically. Correct? I mean, that's
but it's ethically wrong. But Joe, I can feel your anxiety.
But I mean, it brings up this question of whether or not if she's capable of doing that, that would make her an asset to the city. But it would also, as you say, bring up some ethical problems. But then if people are lying, they're getting away with committing crimes. So where do we draw this line on ethics here? I mean, where does this actually
I would
matter?
say I think what's ethically right to say is that Cecile is a nonsense character. I have given up any hopes of believing this character. I don't know. Here's the thing. I don't care at this point what they do with her. There's not going to be a point of me by the end of the season, but in the series where I go, wow, I finally like Cecile again. No, I've given up. And also the consistent calling her Superwoman. I'm like, this is the time where I'm like, I wanted Todd Helbig to walk into Eric Wallace's room and be like, Eric, we are the Superman show. We are the one that gets to say Superwoman if we want to use Superwoman.
Right. All right, we got some super chats. We're gonna move on. Whew. Yeah. Let's move on from the Cecile Allegra stuff because that storyline to me was awful. It was an awful storyline from start to finish. And
Can I add this?
Yeah.
It is one of the worst arcs they've ever done on the show.
Yeah.
That's how bad it was.
Hero's Journey, we need Cecile to fact check this. No, Andy, I was being honest and supporting Eric. Well, I appreciate your support, Hero's Journey. I guess he was talking about the comment earlier about
Supergirl.
Yeah. So, all right. Okay. Well, I always find this name to be quite funny. You are a Snowberry fan. Your existence is a mistake with a $5 super chat. So they show up every once in a while. Thank you for the $5. Goes, I like how you guys are applying logic thoughts to Eric's writing. It's fascinating, really. Eric has a hard on for Danielle Nicolette, just like Googie had for Fifi. I've heard this before, and you've done a lot of interviews with Eric. And obviously you've never, this is an internet thing that is going on or whatever. Do you ever get the impression that there's some sort of like bias towards Danielle Nicolette, or is he just
no? I think he is. Okay, so how do I say that without people calling me a chill? Because first of all, guys, Dan Nicolette and Eric Wallace are married to other people.
Oh, there we go.
And even if there was a relationship, Eric works in Los Angeles. Danny works in Vancouver 9 months out of 12 months every year. So
I don't know. I've heard this quite a bit. I don't know enough about it to really give an opinion.
People think that there's a secret romance between Eric and Danny.
Okay.
And it's not. So this is what I think it is. Here's what I think this is. The leads, obviously, we've seen that, that we've trimmed down more on Grant and Candace over the last few seasons, so on, because they only get to work with them for so much per contract. So I think what Eric is doing, that he's having to work with the other characters that he has more access to at this point,
right?
But that doesn't mean that he can't just write. That he can't just dictate any story he wants. It needs to be a good story still. Like, for example, I loved the episode in the 90s episode where Chester and Cisco gets trapped in the 90s.
Right.
Very, very light, but it's a good story because we get to learn more about Chester. We get to learn about his father. So I don't think it's he has a hard on for Danny or whatever, or for Cecile or whatever. So it's like these are the characters he has to play with. And again, I think that this season could have benefited if it was just 10 episodes, so that we didn't have these interludes. Because I don't think there's. I mean, again, I'm excited for episode 7. I'm very curious about what's going to happen in 8 and 9. Episode 9 is it's a soft interlude, but it's also a soft kickstart to the final graphic novel. So, but I think this could have been a benefit of just having done 10 episodes with 2 graphic novels, and then we can be done. Because but I don't think this is like a bias. I think it's more so just these are some of the characters he has to play with. Now, whether we like some of the stories, now that's a separate conversation.
Silhouette Anime with a $2 super chat, enjoying the Eric Wallace amnesia arc. There's a lot of things that have been forgotten since the beginning of this season. I don't know what's happening with some of these characters and these storylines, but it does feel a little bit like there's an issue there. All right. Emmanuel Robertson with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Emmanuel. Most modern TV shows are 8 to 13 episodes. So why is The Flash struggling with this? You don't need to do 20 plus episodes to tell good stories. I don't really have a good answer for that. I think that the concept of graphic novels or little bits with the show work in a longer season. I think it's tougher when it's only 13 episodes because there's not one storyline all the way through. They're trying to break it up. So maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. Do you have a thoughts on this, Andy? Do you think there's any reason why?
I think it's because Eric has talked a lot about it. He had plans for season 9 and 10, and I think he found out very late that this is the final season, and you're only getting 13 episodes. I think that's what happened, and I think they think and here's because things have been chaotic for CW shows for quite a while now. So and again, that doesn't mean I'm excusing things because again, look at how much I'm hating this episode. Again, I'm never gonna watch this episode ever again. Like I will only watch the West Island scenes on YouTube. That's how much I want to do it. So, for me, I think it's more so that Flash is also used to having more than 13 episodes, and I think this show has never been equipped to just do a 13 episode season.
Right.
So I get it. People say, like Emmanuel, you're saying that why is Flash struggling with this when most modern TV shows is. Can we remember that Flash started 9 years ago with 23 episodes a season?
Mm.
And the only reason we've had fewer than 20 is because of a pandemic.
Right.
So, but again, I know people are going to say, oh, Annie's a chill, whatever. So, but I'm trying to look at logical way as well.
I actually think that like a good way to look at this is like what happened with the last season of Arrow. Like Arrow's first like 5 episodes were pretty good, and then their last 3 were not very good. So I think Arrow is also another show that wasn't designed for these like shorter seasons. It was a show that was designed for a longer amount of episodes. So I mean, the struggle might also be that the people working on these shows aren't capable of writing the episodes and the stories in these smaller blurbs, I guess. Maybe that's a problem as well. But then I look back at something like Armageddon. I think Armageddon was a really good 5 episode arc. I think Blood Work was really done really well. I would think to some degree the Godspeed stuff was pretty good.
I prefer Red Death story over Godspeed because Godspeed was just like 4 episodes. It was we never really got a chance to spend time with Godspeed as a character. We just had to unlock his memories, and then he just became evil. So with Red Death, like because we know Ryan, it has a little bit of advantage. Again, I do think the Red Death storyline also has some weaknesses, but like oh god, I love Armageddon. I kind of want to go rewatch it now.
Jay Birch with the 499 super chat. I just found out Eric Wallace co-created Allegra. That's why I added. That's kind of what everybody believes, that because Allegra was a character that he really wanted to bring her into live action. And by the way, I like Kayla. I think
Kayla's a wonderful actress.
She's so fun. I think that there's just like Allegra being on the show hasn't fully gelled for me. And I mentioned this, I think, over on Twitch. I feel like if you think about stuff that defines characters, like the characters that have been on the show for a really long time, I mean, to some degree, we're talking about like the OGs, like, Danielle Panabaker and Candace Patton and stuff. They've been around for a long time. They've had a long time to really sort of build into their characters. Allegra's been on the show. When did she get introduced? Was it season 5?
6.
So she's been on the show for 3 seasons now, up until now. And other than the stuff with her cousin, I don't think we know a lot about Allegra's personality. They kind of went into the stuff with Chester, and they focused heavily on that when the two of them are on screen together. I feel like Allegra, even in her solo episode from like last season, I still feel like we don't know a lot about this character. Nope. And I think that's the problem. She's there, but she's not there, if that makes any sense.
She's there with no substance. And what I would have preferred, like, I think it was always a mistake to make her a managing or like a supervising editor or something. Like, first of all, can we remember the fact that she was like a teenager when she started? Like she was like in juvie or something. Like, how does someone like at the age of 19 or 20 suddenly become like? You don't become a supervising editor that early.
Right.
I think she should have been a rookie reporter working with Iris. Again, I don't think she should be a superhero. She should not be in Star Lab all the time. And that's the funny thing is that because this was my biggest rant. Oh, great! Now there's 2 people living in that West house that don't go to work and pay rent. Wonderful.
Yeah, I noticed they introduced that concept of her living with.
If I was dead, I would be turning in my grave right now. Like that's how annoyed I was with it.
Defunct here with the $5 super chat. The writers thought this episode would be hilarious. They probably did. This episode did have okay. Hot take here. Mm-hmm. In the very beginning of the episode, when they set up Becky's story. For a split second, I was like, this might actually be funny. I did think that for a split second. And then immediately after she was framed, I was like, oh, this is going to be a hot mess. I think it started out with a really fun idea that just went south very, very quickly. So, that was my issue with that. All right, we'll get back to the super chats in a minute. Let's finish our thoughts on the episode. So Mark is convinced that Keone has powers based on the logic that she brought him back to life. Fair enough. But I think a lot of this is him projecting that he wants Frost to be alive and in there somewhere. And the writers are making Mark very, very, very strange. Like, he's not feeling responsible at all for what happened to Caitlin, who, by the way, still hasn't had a proper goodbye on the show. Still to this day. No official goodbye.
Does her mom even know that she's dead?
We don't know. They mentioned Tannhauser in the episode.
Could you wait a minute? Can you imagine? Okay, so can you imagine if they called Carla for assistance?
Right.
But they never said, "Oh, by the way, your daughter is dead. Bye, Carla."
That's what I'm saying. And people are like, "Oh, they mention it." They need to do more than mention it. This is something that should have at least taken up a subplot in one of the episodes that we've had. They could have cut out the Chegra stuff. They could have cut out this entire episode and done a tribute to Caitlin. Or something. Anything. Anyway. He doesn't feel responsible at all for what happened to Caitlin. He's obsessed with bringing his dead girlfriend back to life, who's been dead for a while now. Like, in the context of the show, like...
But this is also confusing. I don't, like... They're trying to say...
It isn't like she just died yesterday.
Well, that's the thing. You know in 901, where they say... Because this was one of my few, but biggest criticism of 901. You're telling me that all of Season 8 happened in January 2023? And... Because it's like, no, the show is clearly Season 8 taking place in 2022, but they're saying, oh, but it takes place 1 week. I don't understand. This is what I never liked about the CW shows.
Right.
The concept of time doesn't exist.
Right.
It's like, you mean we were literally in June last season when Season 8 ended, but now it's suddenly February, but it's only 1 week later? Come on, be real.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
Well, you know what? I would rather them just not even mention how long it's been. Like, don't even mention it. Like, why? What is the significance of it being a week later? Nothing. There was no significance of that.
They're so obsessed with it. It's like we were talking about Superman Lois. It's like Lois shouldn't know, or should be able to be like pregnant at only 27 days. She wouldn't know about it until a month later. So I'm like, guys, don't tell us how much time it is in, because you guys don't make it make sense.
Yeah. So we have Keone, who's acting very strange to me because she's making references to things about pop culture, which I was like, why is she making jokes about pop culture and referencing pop culture when she's been around for like 3 days? Like, she hasn't been around that long. And I feel even more now that Caitlin got shafted out of a good final season because of the storyline. That really bums me out because I feel like I respect Danielle saying that she wanted to get a little bit more done by having a different character. I totally respect that. But I feel like Caitlin is who the fans wanted to see. But in this episode, they find out that Keone isn't a meta, but she's also not human. And I talked about this theory in my review about her being part of the forces, being the avatar for the life force. The power of this force is for life to flourish. Do you think that's possible that we're going to get even more force stuff before the end of the season? Because
I'm praying.
Eric Wallace seems to really... We used it in season 7. We used it in season 8. Will we use it again in season 9?
He loves Joshua Williams and stuff. I'm guessing, like he really. But I mean this because this is I even brought up your theory on the Flash project. I'm like, if this is not it, then I'm like, then we've been wasting all these episodes for Keone. Like, it's like, this is why I never liked the whole Frankenstein, mad scientist arc they made for Caitlin last season, because I'm like, yeah, I want to spend some time with Caitlin. So the only way I can imagine now is that, because this is the only way. It's Scott Snyder. I'm sorry, Malcolm. I'm sorry. I didn't know. Here's what I'll say. This is the only way it can work for me. We find out that somehow Frost was connected to the life force, and when Caitlin took her part of her hairlock, whatever, and so on, and she like tried to bring back her DNA, she triggered an activation to the life force. I don't know how you would do it in a cryo chamber, but sure, schmayan. And somehow Keon and Caitlyn, they swap players. So Caitlyn is actually in the life force, and Keon is the avatar of the life
Sort
force.
of like what happened with some of the characters from the other forces, like their
Yeah,
real world
that's the
counterparts.
only way it works for me. Because like when you said life force, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay,
Well,
I need Eric's fear to be right, because otherwise I will be furious.
I'm not telling you that. That's what happened. I'm not telling. That's literally how it happened. Frost got a huge send off, and Caitlyn got nothing.
You know, she got a dance party.
Yeah. All right. Basically, let me drop a poll in the chat. But Andy, final thoughts on this episode?
I will never watch it again. The West Allen scenes were adorable when like they came, I mean, first of all, it was creepy, kind of like, how did these people get into their apartment and arrange a whole baby shower? Well, again, I feel like this baby shower thing should have happened in 909 when Wally is coming back.
Yeah,
but
I didn't even mention the baby shower. I just was like, whatever. But
but yes, Iris's hair looks so beautiful. I love her new hair.
I loved it when she walked back into the apartment. I was like, okay, I'm digging this. This is good. Yeah.
And then they're getting like, oh, it's a baby shower. Like she's almost here, and Bear like rubs her belly, like a kiss. I'm like, that's the only good scene in the whole episode.
Well, I said the only thing good in the episode was like the last 2 minutes of it. That was it. Like that was the only thing. So yeah, I feel like this Keon thing is convoluted. And so we're going to let you guys answer this while we wrap up a couple more. We got a couple quick stories. I wanted to end at the 2-hour mark, but we're at 2:10. I'm so sorry, Andy.
No, I don't mind that.
Okay. All right. So we got a couple things we're going to talk about. But my final thoughts on the episode are, it was a waste of time, but I like the idea we have a Dreamer episode coming up because I really love Neonal and Nicole in that role. So can't wait to see that episode. And hopefully it's a lot better than what it's been. Let's look at these two super chats here. Jay Birch with the 4.99 super chat. I've been doing a flash rewatch, and I think what's missing in those season-long character building arcs, like Iris with her mother and yes. So I like the graphic novels, but I also would like if there were seeds planted a little bit better for the final graphic novel of the season. I do agree with that, but I have no personal problems with the structure that Eric is doing. I just think sometimes, like with this episode, the ball gets dropped hard. This was one of the ones where I feel like it just really, it went through like several floors of the building when it got dropped. That's the only thing I can say. I do miss like the Savitar stuff and the Zoom stuff though. So, but it is what it is. We're on the final season. Not much we can do about it now, but thank you for the super chat. Snowberry fan with a $5 it's not actually a Snowberry fan, but we're gonna say Snowberry fan, $5 super chat. I know that probably bothers you. My apologies. The last 2 seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. were 13 episodes each, and they still had compelling storylines and finished on a high note. No excuse for Eric. I'm not making excuses for him. We haven't even seen this.
I'm not trying to make it either.
I'm just saying we haven't seen the whole season yet, so we don't know how it's going to be at the end. It might end up being really good. We have no idea.
In the last 2 seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they actually did start like because during the like from season 3 and 4, so they had like these. I don't know why Chloe Bennett called them pods, but like pods is sort of Agents of Hydra, LMD, Ghost Rider, and so on. But like towards the end, they had like just one same storyline, but the Flash doesn't do that anymore because they do graphic novels. So it's not excuses; it's just listing facts. But
also, I will be once this season ends and the Flash is completely wrapped up, I will feel much more comfortable giving my thoughts about season 9 as a whole. Because right now we're at the halfway mark. We still have a couple more episodes and another graphic novel to get through. So I want to wait till that happens before I give any of my like major opinions on the season. All right, before we talk about these final stories, let us look at the poll and see what it says. Did you enjoy this episode of The Flash? 94% said no, and 5% said yes. So there was a small percentage that did like it. So there we go. All right.
Wait, there's one more thing I just wanted to mention quickly. Cecile is the worst mother. Oh, I can't make it to my daughter's birthday.
It's good to know that doubting her power as a mother or her success as a mother makes her lose her powers. So Just so you know, like she can't control her powers when she doubts herself as a mother. So, all right, we're going to add this back to the stream, and I'm going to bring up, where's it at? Hold on. Shazam 2, no spoilers, but I do want to point this out. 30 million as its opening weekend.
Domestically.
Yeah. That's not good.
No.
Even if the movie was cheap to make, the studio is not going to like those numbers. Because they had dropped it down to 40 and then 35. And then I even saw like 32. So this is even lower than their Lois projections.
Oh, wow. Damn.
Okay. I've seen the movie. I'm not going to give any spoilers. I'm going to do a spoiler thing on Monday night over on Twitch. So if you want to hear my spoiler conversation about Shazam, I'll be doing it on Twitch.
Follow I'm on Twitch, by the way.
Yes.
The link is
it's everywhere. They're everywhere.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. This movie is getting a really bad rap, and I think this is setting a trend of what we're going to see for superhero movies with critics moving forward. I actually think critics are being extra hard on superhero movies right now, and I think it's affecting the success of these movies.
Yeah.
If you're a movie like Shazam or Ant-Man, where you're primarily like an action movie with a lot of fun characters, that's not going to be enough for critics anymore. Critics are looking for like high art out of all of these. They're grading them the same way instead of looking at each of them as an individual product and grading them on what they are.
Amen.
This is a movie that focuses primarily on characters. It is a character-driven movie. It's about a lot of heart between all the characters. The special effects are really good. The villains aren't great. I will say that. And I do think that Zachary Levi's Shazam is sort of a rehash of what he did in the first movie, whereas other characters have grown a little bit. But overall, the fact that it's sitting so low on Rotten Tomatoes is I'm a little bit confused. Same thing I said about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I just don't totally understand it. And I'm someone that, I will nitpick stuff into the ground. This isn't a perfect movie. There's issues with this film. But at the end of the day, it is a fun family action superhero movie that I feel like has received some extremely harsh criticisms based on what it's presenting. If you go to a McDonald's and you grade it like you're going to a fine dining steak restaurant, then that's disingenuous to what McDonald's is giving you. And Shazam, as a movie, isn't giving you fine dining. You know what I mean? That's not what this is. And it shouldn't be expected to be taken as much. Anyway, that's my little rant about Shazam. I'm really sad that it's getting such a low box office. I think this is a franchise that has good legs, that could move forward. A little bit bummed out about that.
I really want to see this be part of James Gunn's DC universe. Like if I take out all the Zachary Levi controversy, I really like him as Shazam, and I like the Shazam family. And this was like a really good sequel. And I agree. You know what? As a critic myself, I will say that I think you're completely right. I think I am disappointed with some of the peers in my field who are being so judgmental these days on superhero movies. Like, I think it's like, let every superhero movie. The reason why comics have been able to exist for so many, for decades and almost, for decades and decades, is because each mythology is different. And that's why when you adapt them to the screen, whether it's television or the big screen or even as a video game, you need to be able to let them be different. Like Shazam is not going to be Black Panther. It's not going to be Black Panther Wakanda Forever.
No.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so what I mean by that is you wouldn't go into a movie like, I don't know, The Whale and judge that on whether or not the action was present, whether or not this was present, whether or not that was present, because that's not the kind of movie it is. And I feel a lot of the criticism I'm seeing for movies like this is they're not living up to the standards of other kinds of films. That's what I'm seeing a lot. And it's starting because I believe there's a general backlash on superhero content that's happening right now. And I get it. There's probably a lot of critics who are just over looking at superhero movies. But the fans are not. That's why you see the fan score so high on Rotten Tomatoes, because the fans are not tired of it. But what happens is the critics get tired of it and they're like, oh, we don't like this. We want to see different types of stuff. I get it. I understand it. Totally fine. But it's starting to affect the sales of these movies. The other problem is this year, 2023, I've looked at this several times. The cards are stacked against so many things because movies are not getting any space. Everything is coming out on top of each other. Like all these movies are coming out back to back to back to back. And Paige here says the issue is most of the people go see every superhero movie and they blend together, and that's why they give these scores, because it doesn't feel different, because by default there are similarities. Right, because most superhero stories are similar. They're designed to be similar. I mean, that's just the way they're made. So see you later, Dino Dragon. Yeah, I have one more little thing we're going to talk about here, and then we're going to move on. But Cody has a $5 super chat here and a Team Eric member. Thank you so much, Cody. Everyone is expecting the Batman now instead of exactly. It's like when they call animation a genre when it's a medium. You know what I mean? These are different. These are things that are not necessarily connected together. You have to understand that something is something. Don't expect it to be something that it isn't.
And it also goes back to, like, this is the problem that I think superhero movies were having post Dark Knight, that everything has to be like the Dark Knight type of quality. And I think that's why I think the MCU was thriving as much as it did, because it was leaning into, and I think, I've had issues with the MCU, but I think the MCU in the early days were starting to show everyone that, hey, we don't have to just be the Dark Knight. The Dark Knight is a great movie.
This is another thing, Cameron. I agree with this. This is why I said this year is going to be rough, because people are going to have to pick and choose what they spend their money on until the economy sort of flattens out again. And there's just too many movies. Like look at it this week. So we got this, and then right around the corner we have, I believe, what's the next movie that we're going to see in theaters?
Is it a Guardians?
No, I mean not superhero related, just movies in general.
There's Indiana Jones 5.
That's another one. Yeah. There's also, I think it's April, where there's a bunch of movies as well coming out. Let's see. April 2023 movies. Yeah, so John Wick is another one. I forgot about that. Super Mario Brothers is coming out. The Chucky movie is coming out. There's a lot. I'm scrolling through here. There's so many movies coming out. Some of them I've never even heard of. We have Guardians of the Galaxy coming out in just a little bit. We have, in terms of superhero movies, we have a ton coming out.
Yeah, The Flash in June, Blue Beetle in August.
Yeah. People are going to have to pick and choose where they spend their money. And I think that's what makes Rotten Tomatoes a little bit more dangerous now, is that Rotten Tomatoes used to be for advertising. Basically, companies would use Rotten Tomatoes to advertise scores for people to go see their movies. But now people are going into Rotten Tomatoes. People are going, hey, I'm not going to see a movie if it's got a low critical score, because I don't want to waste my money. And I think that's something that it didn't used to represent, but now it is, because people have to, their money has to spread out. There's just so many things coming out.
Can I add something? Can I add something about Rotten Tomatoes?
Go ahead.
For me, because this is what I think Rotten Tomatoes has been a big problem. It speaks to elitism that is like somehow like, okay, because the thing is like, yeah, I mean, I'm a critic. I review things all the time, but because my reviews aren't on Rotten Tomatoes, someone like me, my opinion matters somehow.
Wait, your reviews aren't on Rotten Tomatoes?
Nope. I had to try to submit. I tried to submit Multiverse of Color for Rotten Tomatoes, because I'm like, I want people to actually see what we're saying. Not that I think that somehow like Rotten Tomatoes matter, because the thing is, let's say whatever Shazam has right now on Rotten Tomatoes,
yeah,
that only represents maybe a 1/10 of the critic that exists outside Rotten Tomatoes. There are thousands of critics, but their opinions no longer matter now because it only like Rotten Tomato only the only opinions that matter are the ones that Rotten Tomato has approved. And again, here's the thing: if any of my friends who are on Rotten Tomatoes see this, this is not a direct attack on you. It's an attack on the system that Rotten Tomatoes has become because I think it's becoming problematic. I'm sorry, but that's just
No, I get it. I get it. Yeah, I agree. I think it's been an issue. So I had a problem.
It's been weaponized, and I don't like it because it's something like for me, like I am still a huge defender of Black Adam, but because it didn't get the right score, people are not giving it a chance. And then then we hear you months later, people will see it and be like, "Oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it would be." And like, yeah, because it is because you decided to listen to Rotten Tomatoes instead of forming your own opinion about the movie.
The other thing is that I actually feel, and I've said this before about other stuff, is when you have a preconceived notion, whether it be from a critic you follow or even stuff that we do on here, and you go into a movie, you have to consciously disconnect from that opinion before you sit down, or you're going to be swayed by something that's said to you, which is why you see ads all the time with like, so-and-so discussing film said this was the movie of the year or something like that. Those are subliminal. That's why you see those ads popping up all the time saying movie of the year or best special effects we've ever seen or whatever. Those are subliminal. And it's one of those things where it just is what it is. You know what I mean? Like that's the world we live in right now. All right, moving on. This is the last thing we're going to talk about, and then we got a special announcement to make about this upcoming week. We're not going to read the article, but apparently Tom Cruise talked to David Zaslav and got to see the Flash movie early and says he loved it.
Wait, I didn't know that they ran it as an exclusive.
I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. How did this happen, Andy? As someone that is a critic and been doing this for a long time, how did this happen? Like, is it normal for an actor to just get like a copy of a movie?
No, it's not normal at all. Because I have to remind myself I'm not smoking anything right now. Like this is actually a story on the Hall Reporter. It's in front of me. I just think it's fun that this was something they ran because Hall Reporter, they will run like some scoops on Fridays. I'm like, this is what they ran. An actor watched a movie and loved it. I'm just like, I think that it is Tom Cruise.
Can I say something about this?
Yes, go for it.
Conspiracy theory. This feels like David Zaslav wanted something to push out positive press about this film.
Yes, I think that's probably what happened. Maybe. Wait, hold on. Let me ask you in the private if this word is okay to say on YouTube. Because
I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, but go ahead and send it to me there. So, yeah, go ahead. You can say that.
Okay, so you won't get any problems with YouTube.
I mean, I can clip it out if I do. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Is David Zaslav in the Church of Scientology?
Maybe. We'll say it one time. There we go. Is it possible? I don't know.
For legal disclaimer, I'm not sending any. I'm not accusing him of anything. Allegation. I'm not sending any allegations for David Zaslav supposedly being part of the Church of Scientology.
That's the thing, Kata. That's why we're saying this. I don't think there was any chance that he was going to say that. I think that this was a setup to get good press for the movie. I do. I don't see any other way this went down.
I'm sorry, this is so funny to me that it's an exclusive.
Is Mission Impossible connected to Warner Brothers?
I thought it was a Paramount movie. Wait, hold on. I'm
just curious. I'm trying to connect the dots on this one because it's really like it's a little weird.
Mission Impossible it's Paramount.
Okay, so this was just one of those things where maybe they're friends or something.
I'm gonna Google Tom Cruise plus David Zaslav.
See if they have any connection outside of it. Because this is a weird, random thing.
This feels like bought PR.
That's what I feel like, yeah.
And again, if anyone from Wonderverse were to see this, I'm not saying it's a fact. I'm not even saying it's an allegation, but it's like this is.
No, I agree. We're not saying that. I'm not saying that either. This is not
Yeah,
me.
no,
This
I know you're
this
not
is
saying.
this is just speculating about the story. That's all.
I googled Tom Cruise plus David Zaslav, and all I find is just the story about that
Okay.
he's the Flash.
Edge of Tomorrow sequels in works. That's a Warner Brothers movie. That's the connection. That's possible. That is possible.
Oh, okay.
Look, I there is a possibility that the movie looks good to me. Andy and I have talked about this.
Yeah,
The movie looks
great.
good, even the issues I have with Ezra and their problematic past. But the movie looks like it's going to be good, and I think the movie is probably going to do well in the box office. But I just feel like this is like that last push of like, if there's any negativity left, this is good. Because Tom Cruise, believe it or not, is a generally well-liked actor. So having his stamp of approval will generate views from a certain portion of the audience. So the Growly Bear, this is hilarious. Tom Cruise loves to run. Not surprising when to see a movie about a guy who runs. That's actually pretty hilarious.
There's also an Edge of Tomorrow. I was going to say there's also an Edge of Tomorrow TV show in the works by HBO Max. It's like that must be another connection. So because I had never heard of an actor just being like, "Hey man, can I see your movie?" Like,
yeah.
I wonder what actually happened. Is it like if David actually went to him and said,
"That's what I was thinking. Would you like to watch this movie and then give me your opinion on it?" That's what I think. Because why would Tom Cruise ask for this random superhero movie?
Out of all, if there's any superhero movie he would have asked this for, he probably would have asked to see the Batman, not the Flash.
Yeah,
this is sus.
But that is where we're going to wrap this supersized. Look, Canada Graph's just now showing up. This is where we're going to wrap up the supersized episode of the After Party with my special guest, Andy. Multiverse of Color in full effect. Please go and show some support to Andy and the Multiverse of Color out there, like giving stories from every person's personal take. So yeah, there we go. It's very diverse in the Multiverse of Color. All right, so this is the big thing I wanted to announce. Guess big thing or whatever. If you are a Team Eric member, we are doing a Team Eric member chat, which, as you know, it's a public video live stream, but only Team Eric members can chat. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is I'm going to be doing it on Tuesday of this week. Time is TBA, probably around the time of the after party, give or take maybe 20 minutes, 15 minutes here and there, but around the time of the after party. We're doing it on Tuesday, and it will be an hour-long stream where we will be ranking our top 5 favorite Arrowverse costumes. And we can expand that to like shows like Stargirl, Superman and Lois. So we will make sure that it covers pretty much everything DC TV that has been out on the CW. We're going to be ranking our top 5. I'm going to give my top 5, and Andy will be giving his top 5. We're going to see if our top 5s line up. That is going to be on Tuesday here on YouTube. So if you're not a Team Eric member, it will be a good time for you to go ahead and subscribe so you can come in and contribute, because we will be polling the chat as well during the stream to see if you guys agree or disagree with anything we talk about. So that will be this upcoming Tuesday. So Andy will be joining me for that. So make sure you do that. And if you're not following me on Twitch, twitch.tv /Eric's Reloaded, I will be live on Monday where we will be talking about the big L. So we're going to be talking about like edgy topics, and I'll be giving my spoiler take on Shazam as well. So there we go. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you, Andy, for joining me today. I know it was like a last minute thing, but I do appreciate you being here and getting your take on
Thank you everyone for being so welcome in the chat.
And you can follow Andy everywhere. There's his name at, there you go. Write that down. Follow him everywhere. He also does the Endless Multiverse with Chainsaw Reacts over on Chainsaw's channel. But if you type in Endless Multiverse, it's like the first thing in the YouTube search algorithm, so you can find him there. So that's it. We are out of here. Thank you guys for being here, and I will see everyone next time. Take care. Bye.